on how they would have dealt with that particular issue. I thank you.
I think you are making this more complicated than making it easy, because what the mayor said is that the matter was put to rest. At the point where it was reported, there was a conclusion that it has got nothing to do with the municipality. And my question was around the scientific process of arriving at that conclusion, that it had nothing to do with the board, with the municipality. And that has not come forth. What you are saying is something different. You are saying that the matter was subjected to the board, which means that there would be reasonable expectation that the board will do something about it and at some point probably report back on the processes it would have taken. Now, these are two stories that are coming up around how this matter was dealt with, and it gives me a confusion. Maybe if someone can clarify me quickly on because now the next question would be, when is the expected report from the board on how it has dealt with the matter? That should then come back to council, if there is such. And when was that meeting? How long? What was the time frame for that matter to be finalized? Let me pause there, and maybe in a second, because we're trying to get straight to answers. Thank you. Sorry, I don't know. Was my question not clear? My question is that we're getting two versions of issues. The version of the matter that the matter was put to rest when it was presented, and the committee felt that it had nothing to do with the municipality. The second version suggests that the matter was deferred to the board to deal with it, which would mean that there's a report that will be expected from the board at some point, which suggests that the matter has been dealt with in this particular fashion and so forth. So those are two different versions. The other one suggests it's ongoing, but the responsibilities at the board level because of the delegations of responsibilities and so forth. The other version suggests that according to council, the matter was put to rest. The conclusion was that it has got nothing to do with the council. Can I get one version? That is what I'm asking for.
Yeah. No, thank you, Chair. Chair, maybe let's just go back. So both versions are actually correct. I was also part of that in-committee meeting. So what the mayor was reporting on was the deliberations in the mayoral committee, the in-committee, in which the mayoral committee was debating what action should be taken in relation to the CEO, which is the one part, and the mayoral committee resolved that at this point, it's a matter that did not take place during working hours, and therefore that matter should not be, or mayoral committee should not deliberate on the matter further. But second, in the same meeting, there was also a conversation that in fact, the authority to deal with the CEO lies with the JDA board, and in fact, we should request a report from the JDA on how they've processed before mayoral committee can take any further action, if any. However, the board needs to be allocated. I suppose, Chair, what we need to then do is go back onto the records through group governance and request the actual action that the board would have taken on that matter. We can also provide the committee with the minutes of that particular mayoral committee through governance, because those meetings are recorded, so that we show the two resolutions that we're taking. Thanks, Chair.
All right. When was that meeting that suggested that, and when was the report to be expected back?
Yeah, I can't recall the actual date of the meeting, but I think it was a month or two ago, and I don't recall if we had put a specific date, but I'm sure we can provide that detail.
All right. For now, let me move on before my 15 minutes has expired. I do have some other follow-up questions in relation to this matter, but let me go on to the issue of your service delivery targets. They say the AG says that in terms of sustainable service delivery, you're sitting at 40%. Infrastructure development and refurbishments, you're sitting at 36%. Now, Well, this is it's a reflection of what Johannesburg looks like. It's an accurate reflection of that. But this is my question, because I understand that within the limited capacities and the challenges that you believe you are presented with, at least there should be 1 or 2 service delivery targets where you feel that you are performing at least at 80%. You know, leave 20% for human error. I'm just asking you an open-ended question to say, give us 1 or 2 of the service delivery targets, which you can say these are our priority areas, and at least in this one area, we can confidently say you are doing justice to the people of Johannesburg. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm reading from the Q4 performance report from the previous financial year. What is related to, earlier on I referred to the proactive and reactive. So in terms of the repairs and maintenance, we missed the target by 1.2%. In terms of CAPEX expenditure, particularly towards the CAPEX infrastructure, we achieved that target by 99.4% in the previous financial year. And I think that is the most critical indicator in terms of the infrastructure and improvement on service delivery. Chair. So based on that performance, I mean the 99.4% is the target that we've achieved in terms of percentage spent on citywide infrastructure. Thanks, Chair.
And so that is for this financial year. It means we'd interact with it in the audit report, or it's for the previous. Okay, all right. No, it's fine. Let's move from that. The other issue the HE raises is around your funded vacancies, and I don't think that it has been ventilated. But if it has, we can go past it. I just need to understand your staff complement versus your broader funded vacancies, and number 2, the specific funded vacancies that are referred to in the executive management, at an executive management level. How far are the process of filling those positions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I think at an executive management level, up until the 3rd quarter, we had about 3 vacancies. But those vacancies were filled in the last quarter. I think currently at executive management level, which is a section 56 in the city, we have only 2 vacancies, and those processes are going the recruitment process, and I think we've interviewed for the 2 positions, for the 1 position, which was the HOD for public safety, and I think at entities there's an interview process for the City Power MD, CEO. And I think in terms of funded vacancies in the city as a whole, I think we sit within the norm set by National Treasury that our vacancy level on funded post is sitting around 4% currently.
Okay, let me just confirm specific information. Here we have a head of, executive head, office of the city manager. This is just top management, not executive. Which was advertised in 2023. The closing date was also in March 2023. Is that post filled?
It's one of the 2 vacancies that are outstanding, which is that executive head in the city manager's office and the public safety HOD.
All right. If you can just take the committee into confidence around the delay on the process, unless if what we have here is incorrect, because if there was a publication date of the 3rd of March 2023 and we're in 2026, maybe there's been re-advertisements. What are the challenges? Or maybe it was filled at some point, and then someone resigned again. Just take us into confidence around that.
I think one of the considerations that positions is in the city manager's office. At some point in time in the city manager, we had an acting city manager. So I think at that time, the decision was that once the city manager, we have a full-time city manager, that position will be re-advertised for person to fill that position, because the person is the support function in the city manager's office.
All right, let me move.
Your last 2.
Oh, last 2, okay.
You already over.
Okay, no problem. Let me just ask all the remaining ones. How much is owed by staff and management to the municipality? That is one question. The debt which is from staff and management to the municipality, including councillors, if there are councillors who owe the municipality money. And what's being done about that? That is one question. The other question is to check whether the prepaid and the postpaid, or the transfer from the prepaid and the postpaid, if any of any among yourselves are still on prepaid. I just want to check if that information you have, if that, yeah, any amongst yourselves. I don't know if you reside in the city of Johannesburg, but I want to believe that you do. And obviously you can't lead a project that you exempt yourselves from. So I want to understand if that exists. And then the last question relates. I did not hear the response on the permits. We are dealing with a serious issue of illegal foreigners, and the need for the prioritization of locals in opportunities within different cities. Take us into confidence around what the Johannesburg municipality is doing to ensure that it gets rid of illegal foreigners in the city, but also it is able to ensure that, you know, business opportunities in the city are prioritized for locals. And there is a challenge generally of locals applying and giving, alleged challenge of locals applying and handing over permits for the operation of illegal foreigners. How does the city also mitigate that, which seems to be a prevalent challenge? Let me stop there for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Member. What's owed by councillors and staff is around 2 million. What we are doing as the City of Johannesburg, we have staff accounts that we deduct directly from the staff of the City of Johannesburg. Obviously, we do tell them that you owe the City of Johannesburg, and based on that owing, the employee, we sign an acknowledgement of debt, and we then pull it just from the staff account. So it's already pulled when the salary is paid to them. From a councillor point of view, the list of councillors that owe the city money is sent to the Speaker for the City of Johannesburg, and we, through her office, we then implement credit management to get our money back. So on a monthly basis, we do keep the speakers or legislature informed in terms of which councillors owe, and if needs be, they can also enter into an AOD so that they can pay back. So it's the staff accounts for employees and the office of the speaker for councillors. Thanks.
Maybe let me deal with the last part of your question. It's a mandate issue. As and when we implement bylaw enforcement programs, we then have Home Affairs with us, which then assist us in the handling of undocumented and illegal foreigners. I think in the last operation we had Home Affairs then agreed with us because they didn't have enough capacity that we will arrest but hand them over when we arrive at the police station for processing. So that's how we then do these projects with Home Affairs and the SAPS. In relation to postpaid and prepaid, we still have a lot of customers who are on postpaid, and amongst us, I think I'm also on postpaid. And of course, there are benefits for the city also on postpaid. So I don't think we really are pushing for everyone to be on prepaid, but particular categories of society, you can then push them into prepaid. There are advantages. We are currently receiving about 920 just on availability charge on postpaid as compared to prepaid, which availability charge is just under 200, so around 200, probably increasing to about 300 or so. So basically that's where now personally, as you ask, I'm still on postpaid. And I've answered.
All right, thank you very much. Is somebody supposed to say more? No. Or the informal traders.
Yes,
and,
we do issue permits as people apply, we assess, and on the basis of availability of trading space. But what we then do on a weekly basis, once in a week, our teams from JPC go into site to confirm whether the person who was issued with the permit is still the same person or is no longer the same person. If we find that it's not the same person, we have subletted, then we revoke the permit.
So who does the checking, JMPD?
Johannesburg Economic Development through JPC, Johannesburg Property Company. So we do send foot soldiers to do that assessment.
All right. When they get there and the person is not supposed to be there, what happens? Now I'm saying when they get there and they find someone who is not supposed to be in that trading spot, what happens?
They immediately revoke their license, the permit. The permit, and then of course, JMPD will then be called in to then confiscate. Is it the right English? Yes, confiscate the stock and take them to our compound.
What happens to the stock thereafter?
The people must come back and claim and pay the particular fine. If they are not paying the fine, then at a certain stage, it's then disposed of.
Oh, okay, so it's an impound. Okay. Can we go back to Mr. Matibe? How much information did the executive committee have before making the decision to let the matter go? Just describe the information that you were given that informed the decision.
Thank you, Chair. At our disposal, it was merely the news headlines that we had received in the media.
Do you think that's enough information upon which to make a decision like this? I don't know, maybe I'm asking a rhetorical question because you already taken the decision on the basis of the headlines. So, did you take any statements from the employee to explain where they got the money?
No.
Okay, don't you think you should have, Mayor?
Well,
I mean, you don't know. I mean, he might get called by Justice Madlanga and then you'd go, oh, oops. You know how bad that would look now.
As I said, Chair, we at that time the mayoral committee arrived at the decision that maybe the matter, it was not in the execution of his duties, it was outside that. But we do take counsel. I mean, leaving this meeting, I think there are certain things that we should have looked at as the city, and I guess we take counsel from you and we'll look at those matters.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to the council, Mayor. So the difficulty that I have is an appearance that the mayoral committee was keen to bury the matter. Do you know for certain if the money wasn't the proceeds of unlawful dealings within entities of the municipality? Can you say that for certain? No. I'm trying to illustrate a point, which is you don't know how the employee came across that money. You have no idea. You've admitted that yourself. It is if I propose to you that the money was the proceeds of a bribe in respect of work that needed to be done in that agency, you wouldn't be able to dispute it because you never asked and you never tried to find out.
Thank you, Chair. At the time of the mayoral committee, when the allegations came to the fore, we didn't have grounds to institute any investigation at that time when the media allegations came to the fore. So the mayoral committee then said, let us allow the law enforcement agencies, and obviously if there's any process, we will be guided by what would have come out, because we didn't receive any information about what had transpired, because it transpired in his home and we saw it in the media. And that is why we took that decision as the mayoral committee collectively to say we will be guided by the outcomes of the law enforcement. And as the group had indicated earlier, in the city, in fact, in the mayoral committee, one of the conversations we had, Chair, was that the city would need to look at how we develop a policy because we saw that there was a particular gap to make sure that we are able to deal with these allegations. If a person is found to be in the media on allegations, what steps then can we take internally? Because there is a gap in the policy.
Okay, if I understand the media reports well, they said he had been found with money and then was subsequently arrested, right? Okay, so it's not just media reports. You know for certain that he was arrested. So the media reports are peripheral to the issue that I'm raising here. An employee of the city of Johannesburg was arrested for having a huge sum of money in hard cash. And you guys were not interested in where he got it. You were not interested. I think that much is clear. Have you taken any steps to try and find out where he got the money? Since he was arrested, let's leave the media reports. Have you taken any steps to find out where he got the money? And I think the first step would be to ask him. Because as an employer who deals with large sums of money from your own fiscus, you have an apprehension now that something is happening within your environment that you didn't know about. That's what I would expect. Have you done anything like that?
From the oversight in terms of the political leadership, no, we have not. But I will also allow if the city manager administratively, he would have done. From our side, no.
Thanks, Chair. From our side, through our group governance department, there was a formal correspondence that went through to the board chair and the board in particular to ventilate on the matter and provide a report specifically on this.
Can you say that in English? What did you ask the board to do?
It was specifically for the board to confirm the issues with regard to the media issues and or the possible arrest.
Okay, Dr. Brink, can we just use straight language? We've now dealt with the media issues, so let's leave that out. The man was arrested. We know that for certain. He was arrested, 50,000 rand bail. We know that. What I'm asking is, upon his arrest, upon establishing that he had been arrested, what conversation did you have with the board about the matter?
No, I personally didn't meet with the board.
Who was supposed to deal with the board on this matter?
It's group governance.
Did they do that?
They did through a formal correspondence.
I'm interested in what the correspondence says. You're not telling us. That's the essence of my question.
Yeah, so Chair, maybe give me an opportunity quickly to convene or quickly to check with the group governance department. I'll ask one of the colleagues to go out and then we can share.
Okay, I think what you are saying is that you also never tried to establish, because you would know. I mean, this matter has had national attention. An official has been found with 2 million rand. They've been arrested. I really wouldn't expect to be wanting to go outside and check. I mean, if we know about it here.
No, I'm referring to the fact that you asked for the report. So I'm saying allow me quickly to get the report to the correspondence, which we can then report back exactly what it said.
Okay, so what conversation did you have with group governance?
With the group governance one, at that particular point, there were two related issues. One at City Power and this Joshco one. And to both of those particular boards, I've requested the group governance department to write through to the relevant boards.
Yes, to write and say what?
To confirm the issues and for us to be able to have a report and to understand the allegations that we would have seen or the severity of the issues.
Okay, so when did you do that?
I'll now have to check specifically, but it was specifically during that time.
Yeah, and I'm asking for an approximation, Doc.
I'm saying to you during that time, Chair.
When was that?
At the time of the arrest, a few days or so, around that time.
No, sure. I mean, give us an approximation. Which month?
I'll quickly have to check and confirm. I don't know which date and which month, but I think it was somewhere around what, January, February? I will have to check, Chair. Please provide me with indulgence. Let me get the information.
Okay, no, sure, you can get the information later, but here's my, and let's not break yet. So,
Can I assist?
no, sure, can you just allow me to finish, Honorable Mutolo? So, here's my difficulty. Neither the mayor, nor the MMC concerned, nor the board, or any of you, have ever bothered to find out and know where this gentleman got this money. That much we know, because had you bothered to try and find out, you wouldn't need to go and convene and talk about this matter outside. So I think that much we know. Do you perform lifestyle audits at all on your employees?
That's the process that we are starting now, Chair. The colleagues must just guide me quickly, but I think it was 3 weeks ago or so, where we now received a formal confirmation from SSA to unfold the process, which we will do through our ethics department as well as chiefers.
Okay, so you haven't been doing it.
We're starting with that process now.
Yes, but you haven't been doing that. That's what I'm trying to get at. So there's no questions about what happened here, where this gentleman got this money. Nobody seems interested at all. And to the extent that none of you, from the mayor to anybody in seniority who should know, nobody's interested. The lifestyle audits, I don't even know if it's directed at him and any other employees like him, but clearly the first step to take is to obtain a statement from the person and find out what happened here. Where did you get this money? Whose money was it? How did you, in terms of what you earn, you shouldn't have this kind of money. Do you know if they've got any other business interests from which they may have somehow had an awesome cash business that would give them that kind of money in their home, in terms of their declaration of interest?
That is something that will be dealt with within that entity.
Okay, but you don't know.
No.
Okay, do you see that this looks like a cover-up? Can you see how it looks like a cover-up? You know when you don't look, if you don't look, you don't see anything. That's what it looks like. None of you, it looks like their members know more about this issue than you do. And you are in the seat. And you haven't taken any steps whatsoever to try and find out what happened. And the gentleman is back at work. And I'm wondering why that doesn't bother any of you. Why are you not bothered by this? I'm asking seriously now. Why are you not bothered? No, colleagues, it's a real question. It's, I think members of the public want to know why you are not bothered by this situation at all. Because you clearly aren't. You haven't done anything. Has this matter served in council in any way? Have any councillors raised it? Or the whole city is just not interested?
Not at the council level, Chair, not that I know of.
Okay, all right. Honorable Beck, I've delayed you long enough.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And greetings to everyone and all protocols observed. Chair, earlier on, when the mayor was addressing us when they first arrived, he said we are doing something right. Now, I'm also a resident of Johannesburg. And when the mayor says we're doing something right, I got a bit uncomfortable because I know and I also understand the issues surrounding Johannesburg. Now, what is happening in Johannesburg currently, maybe we can excuse the deputy mayor. But from accountability, she would be in it even if she was not there. There are some serious issues in Johannesburg, Mayor. The city of Johannesburg is a mess. The city center itself is filthy. It's crime-ridden. There's potholes everywhere in the city of Johannesburg. The robots are not working in half of the city. There's serious electricity outages, even right now, in the city. There's water leaks and there's water outages in the city to a point where people have been protesting about the issues of water. You've got seriously crumbling infrastructure that is not being repaired or fixed to a point where I end up having to ask the question, even though it's a rhetorical one, that where are these engineers and these specialists who are supposed to be preparing for the replacement of this outdated infrastructure? We had the gentleman sitting here at the back, I'm not sure who he is, saying or telling us or giving us the numbers of the infrastructure that needs to be replaced. Now, it begs the question that the people who are supposed to plan for replacing all of that infrastructure, from the water to the electricity to the sewage systems, where are they? Where have they been? What have they been doing? But I'll move on. Chair, to the mayor again. Mayor, there are too many hijacked buildings in the city of Johannesburg, in the Johannesburg CBD. The foreigners are running amok in those buildings, both legal and illegal. And a lot of those buildings are not fit for people to be living in them. They have severe water leaks. They have severe plumbing issues. And most of them are basically shouldn't have people living in them. They are severely overcrowded, and their sewerage systems create a serious health hazard. So the first question to you, Mayor, would be, why are these buildings not being condemned? And the second one is, what are you doing about this issue with these buildings that have been hijacked in Johannesburg?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Let me respond to the latter question first. The bad buildings or hijacked buildings requires the city of Joburg to evacuate, but the law says once you evacuate people in a bad building, you must find them temporary accommodation, the cost of which the city does not have. And in fact, it's an unfunded mandate from the side of the city. And we have raised this matter with human settlements on a constant basis that the city cannot afford temporary accommodation because the law says, as you move them out, you must provide alternative accommodation. We don't have the resources. We have went into an attempt to try and even get the private sector to come on board to help us with temporary accommodation, and that's discussions are still taking on. But it therefore means once you move them and the private sector has created the space, they must also pay for that accommodation. Now, the understanding of what's happening in those buildings becomes very paramount for the members of the committee, because you must be able to give a profile of the people that are in the buildings, for you to understand the impact on how we can respond to this thing as a city. You enter into a building with 220 families. Half of those families are unemployed and are South African citizens who have no other means whatsoever, except that they've been able to find ways of paying the 500 rentals in the small space that they've been given. Now, they've been battling with space and they've been battling to pay those rentals. We've got about 45 buildings to about 55, which are still city-owned buildings that we are also trying to evacuate. In the last year or so, we've been able to only evacuate 3 up to date. The rest of the balance are private sector and provincial and national government buildings. The challenge is huge than what we see in the media, which therefore means we require real resources as the city And the only way to fund this is to get national government to come to the party and help us to fund temporary accommodation. Because once we've got temporary accommodation massively, then we can be able to respond to this problem. And unfortunately, I hope that Parliament, with the Eviction Act, you are likely to help us once that law is passed for us to be able to change the
Apologies, Mayor.
situation.
Could you please move on to the second question? I think you're dragging on a bit too long on this question.
Sorry, my
because,
apology.
Now there's other follow-up questions. And Mayor, trust me, we do understand the situation in those buildings very intimately.
Okay, that's fine. So I thought I should respond it in that fashion. The second part of the question, you have. Well, we are not hiding anything. We did say that our infrastructure is old and we're experiencing almost 10,000 leaks a month. Because the infrastructure there can no longer be repaired, it has to be replaced. Just this year alone, we are doing 84 kilometers of pipe replacement, because that's what we can afford and that's what we've budgeted for in an attempt to deal with both sewer and water leaks. We're doing 85 kilometers. In the city center alone, we are required to do about 150 kilometers of steel pipes that requires replacement. So we are working towards raising the capital. But over and above, we then said, rather let's raise capital in the capital market in an attempt to deal with about 2,600 kilometers of both water and sewer. In that way, it will help us to also reduce on our losses. But reality is, it's a fact, we do have huge problems in terms of our infrastructure, and that is why there's an attention given to try and deal with the infrastructure of both water and electricity.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just, on that note, I hope while you are still Mayor, that none of those buildings collapses, because some of us have seen the state that they're in, and hence I ask why they're not being condemned. I understand where you're coming from, but I would implore you to do more, because some of those buildings are literally on the verge of collapse. And as you say, they've got about 200 families in them. Those buildings will collapse with those 200 people living inside of them. And I do not know what the city will do the day that happens. Now, moving on, Mayor, and I'll ask this one to you, the Deputy Mayor, given her portfolio, and the City Manager. There are 6 City of Johannesburg executives that earn more than the President of South Africa. The head of City Power, the CEO of Johannesburg Roads Agency, the Pick It Up Managing Director, Johannesburg Property Company, Johannesburg Development Agency, Johannesburg City Theatres, Johannesburg Water. I'm trying to understand, maybe give us some context. What is the logic behind this? And what is it that these executives do that makes them earn more than the President of South Africa? Maybe there's a special degree that they need to have, some aeronautical propulsion systems, maybe that they have a PhD in, that renders them the exclusive, gives them the exclusivity to be earning more than the President of South Africa, because clearly their jobs at Pick It Up must be more complex than that of the President. Could you please indulge us? Tell us, what is the case, what's going on here? I can give you the numbers of who earns what, if that's... What is the question?
No, I was thinking that, Chair, because you raised a very important issue through you, Chair, of the inner city when you are saying to the mayor, you hope during the term nothing happens. You raised a very fundamental issue which has reached the crisis levels in the city of Johannesburg. You are quite right. If anything was to happen as we speak here today, we are going to be in a big problem at the level of Usindiso. What I wanted to indicate the complexity of the issue is, we went to as far as trying to get evacuation orders in the inner city. We've got 10 or 12 evacuation orders. When I'm talking about the evacuation orders is, we as the city, we went to court. We told the court that the structural integrity of the buildings is so bad that nobody can live in those buildings. And to an extent where one of the judges indicated that those people are better in the bush than in those buildings. So you are quite correct, Honorable Member. And I'm raising this thing, it does not only affect the city of Johannesburg, but it is worse in the inner city. If any fire was to erupt there, if there was to be any shift of any building, wind or whatever, we are going to reach a crisis. And I was discussing it with my EMS people to say, perhaps maybe we should declare a state of emergency or a state of disaster, because that is what it is in the city. And I just thought maybe I should add to what you are raising to say, there is a problem in the inner city. We acknowledge you are not just shooting in the air. In as much as it's painful, you are raising very pertinent issues which needs an urgent attention. If we don't attend to the inner city, we are going to lose lives, and we don't know when. We are just hanging on that thin thread and hoping against hope every day that nothing happens. I thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. On the question of executives, and I think it's something that we are starting to grapple with in the city, because I think salaries at entity level have been left between the board and the people who appoint the CEO. So the boards set up the salaries at entity levels, unlike at core level where salaries are regulated through COGTA. And I think what we're trying to grapple with is how do we bring that same regime for the executives at entity level. I think that's the question for now. That's the answer for now.
Mayor, are you happy with that answer?
Well, I guess Mbulelo must just collate the information and give the information to the committee on each and every of the CEO that has been appointed, because the figures currently, we may have different figures on what we understand has been allocated. So let's give you a scientific report and submit it by tomorrow.
Okay, the question was, what are these mayors doing that is so specialized that make, or the CEOs, what are the CEOs doing that makes them earn so much? Is their work so specialized? Is it some rocket science or some nuclear physicist PhDs that they have that makes them earn this much? Why do they earn this much is the question. Why do they earn more than the president? Do they perhaps have, I even made an example that, do they perhaps have more responsibility than the president of South Africa because they earn more than him? And I made an example of Pick It Up, that whoever's running Pick It Up is earning more than the president of South Africa, from what we are being told. Now, if my understanding is correct, Pick It Up collects garbage around Johannesburg, and that person who runs that entity owns more than the president of South Africa. Indulge us, Mayor, please.
Chair, can I keep it to that response? We'll give a full report, accommodating and giving a reflection of every CEO that has been appointed as private entities, and it's on the basis that probably some benchmarking would have been done before they arrived at those decisions. So let's give you a comprehensive report. Otherwise, at this stage, I'll find myself thumb-sucking.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
No, I'm not happy with that. So I've saved your 54 seconds left on your time. So you'll ask one more question. This shouldn't be complicated, Executive Mayor and the city manager. One of you should know what criteria is used to do the job grading. The scope of the job, the size of the balance sheet, whatever the case might be. Surely you know those kind of things, to say our entities of different sizes, the considerations at this category is A, the consideration at is category B, and pick it up that you are asking about. The considerations would be the following. It's not difficult. It doesn't need a report. The city manager and you, Executive Mayor, between the two of you should be able to produce an answer for Honorable Kupek.
No, thanks, Chair. Let me try. No, Chair, look, indeed it's a fact that they earn more than what we earn at upper limits level, at the COGTA level. So it's based on the scope and the complexity of the jobs. And they've got a complete different system in terms of their own benchmarking and the scales of their salaries. So it is something that the executive mayor raised recently as well, that we now need to go through our corporate services department and governance and rationalize this, because clearly it is not a cost that we believe that must be passed on to your residents, because there's an issue and the honorable member is almost raising it towards that particular value for money in this case.
So, City Manager, you've kind of repeated what I proposed to you as a general point. That's what you've just done. And then you pivoted to what you guys are going to be doing. That's not enough for me. I expect you to have an idea of the considerations that go into the determination of the salary of the CEO. Just to make it clear, I am not one of the people who believe that in order to get good professionals, you must pay them peanuts. I don't believe that. You want a 1.5 million rand per year CFO, you're gonna get a junior manager as CFO. So that's me. So that's not where I'm coming from. My difficulty is that you don't know what considerations at those organizations get to determine those salary packages and how they incentivize. That's what you should be able to explain to us, but you're not. I don't know why you don't know. So do you really don't know, gentlemen?
The point is taken, Chair. We can provide you with the report, but indeed, those are some of the things that you would have mentioned, and you are correct. It's linked to the pressure within those particular positions, and I wouldn't want to thumbsuck all those figures. We've also seen recently in the media that certain one or two of the CEOs or MDs, there were escalations in their salaries. We've written to them, so there is a report that we can provide very soon. And like the mayor said, we can give tomorrow, and we can clearly indicate what it is based on scientifically.
Okay, before I hand back to Honorable Kupek, my difficulty is that you gentlemen don't know. You understand? The pressure of city manager, the pressures that you face, believe me, are probably 3 times, you can tell me this, 3 times that each of those people have to bear. So I don't deny that. I'm just saying I expect you to know, and you gentlemen don't know, and council should know what goes into those kind of decisions. But let's leave it. Honorable Kupek, your last one.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Before that last question, what we're talking about now with the issue of the salaries says to us that the city manager and the mayor and the executive as a whole, they do not know, or they've got no control of what's happening with these salaries. And then for the city manager, it must be painful for him that the people reporting to him earn more than he does. But to the last questions, oh yeah, sorry. And then Mayor, you said you're going to give me a report with city manager. That report, please tell us. Also add, just noting that those entities that we're talking about, they also have boards in them. The people who sit on those boards also earn. Could you give us a report of what they earn as well? And I'm saying this because all of these entities that we're talking about, most of them, they are failing. Yet they have these executives who earn exorbitant amounts. One, they've got boards as well that earn. We're just not sure how much the boards earn. Could you please add that to the report? And then the final question, it's 2 questions, Chair. At City Power, price inflation features prominently in the Hawks case docket that includes possible bribery when an 8.6 million rand quote for the supervisory control and data acquisition system, or SCADA, ballooned to 100.6 million without the job spec changing or additional purchases for the John Ware substation in the CBD. The system should have been 7.1 and blah, blah, blah. I would like the guys at City Power to take us into confidence regarding this huge or exorbitant price escalation. What was the issue there? And then the then CEO, I'm not sure if it's the same CEO of the same City Power, had an apparent nepotism racket at the entity as well, allegedly employing family members and family members of senior managers Could we be appraised about that? And then just lastly, Chair, the mayor, there's an allegation that the mayor is burying the Johannesburg City Power's financial reports. Mayor is this, that City Power's financial reports. There's an allegation that you are burying, or you're not bringing to the front, to the fore, to the, whereas yes, you are not bringing them to the fore, to your council, that the financial reports, you're not giving them from City Power to this thing. Is this true? That's one. And was the mayor able to table to the council the financial reports of City Power over the past 2 years? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. We do table the reports through our annual quarterly reports, that we take to council. So we should have presented the financials for all the entities. So that part has been taken care of. So we have no reason to hide reports. We're also required by legislation that on a quarterly basis we must also submit Section 71 reports to National Treasury, which we do comply with those reports. So I guess the statement, I'll respond in that fashion.
Thanks, Chairperson. With the allegations of SCADA and the nepotism and all that, I would like to put it also on record that that is not true. It's not factual. It's just reports that were reported or we've seen in the media, and especially a particular media house. And all those allegations, they were subjected to an independent legal firm to investigate via the board. And the report came and it did not find anything of some sort that has been reported about. Thank you, Chair.
Could we possibly get a report on that, Chair? Could that same report be shared with us? Thank you.
We will do. Thank you.
And then the second question was with that deployment of nepotism allegations.
Yeah, it's the report. If I recall very well, it didn't find any nepotism. However, it also acknowledges the fact that there's people who are working that you may be related to. It does not mean that they cannot work, because the person who has been alleged that has committed that kind of a situation or nepotism is not even sitting in the interviews or whatsoever. So, but all that information will support or provide the report based on all those allegations that have been made. Thank you, Chair.
So basically, there are people who have got relatives that are working senior in the entity that are working there, but it's just that the seniors were not involved in the hiring of those people.
The report, I think, I don't want to say it exactly as I'm saying, but I can recall from the head of from the mind to say, for example, if Ndlovu is in Ndlovu and there's another Ndlovu who's working, then it may be look like that is the situation. However, it has been written in the report, the full information as to what exactly transpired, and we can provide so that the members can find comfort in the actual report. Thank you.
Okay, who compiled that report?
There's an independent legal firm that has been sanctioned by the board, and they have done the report.
Please also share with us the details of that independent firm. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thanks very much, Honorable Gubek. That's Honorable Letsia. It's not the chair of the Higher Education Portfolio Committee, not somebody from the Expanded Public Works Program. Welcome, Chair. It's good to have you here. We've got two honorable members who haven't. It's Honorable Mende and Honorable Matuna. But Honorable Matuna is still gymming. So we will take Honorable Mende. Please go ahead.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I see by the presence of the higher education that the House is now done. Greetings once more to everyone. To the Mayor, the City Manager, and the MMC for Finance. If we were to talk to the actions taken in response to the AG's findings, this session would have taken us 20 minutes and we would have gone home. The problem that the AG is identifying and concerned about is lack of action, where there is glaring non-compliance of the legislation where financials are concerned. Now, the most glaring feature here is that there is no respect for the rule of law. Here we have the group of City of Johannesburg. Let's leave the core. And Chair, I want to make a proposition that the entities should get a day of their own, because what we are doing here is really not accountability. We are asking merely 2 minutes and we are over that. I'm saying this because, MMC, you are responsible to make sure that whatever budget of the city is spent wisely on the citizens of the city. When you look at the findings in terms of the financials of the entities, the city power is at procurement and contract management, as well as expenditure management. Johannesburg Water, expenditure management. Pick it up, West. They cannot even compile annual financial statements. The performance reports are questionable. Annual reports are questionable. Expenditure management, they cannot even account or declare. Yet these are the people who earn more than the president. Joshco, the same property company, Johannesburg Property Company, Development Agency, roads, Metrobus, City Parks, Tourism, and the Metropolitan Trading. What's common here is that there is lack of accountability, but most glaring is the incompetence. That's the problem we have, May. What have you done when the AG tells you that these entities are failing on the basic function of their office to compile annual financial statement according to the standards that are expected of them? They cannot declare correctly on the performance, on the annual report. Procurement management is not in line, as well as the asset management at property company. What steps did you take when you get that? These are the people who should be the most qualified. But what did you do when the AG tells you, here are the shortfalls within these entities? Most basic things. Just want to get that first.
Oh, you wanted me? I thought you were asking the from the finance point of view, I think the questions you are asking are quite clear. But what we are trying to do as the city is to deal with those things through working with GPEC, audit, and our risk committees that we have established to help us deal with performance, deal with the risks, and of course, dealing with the audit. So that's the best we could do. But added to that expectation is that from an administrative point of view, there should be processes that are undertaken to ensure that these entities are able to comply and respond to the challenges that the AG have raised. We have put in place an audit action plan so that all those matters that the AG has raised, we can respond to. And some of them, I do agree with you, are matters that should have acted quite quickly, because as you look at the AG's report, some of them are repeated findings which we should have resolved adequately as the city. So I think there are lessons learned that we need to ensure that we respond to these things as urgently as possible. So I do note the issues I've raised. There are weaknesses, especially in the entities, and I think we need also to strengthen group governance. And our audit committees have been doing quite an outstanding work to point out to some of these failures. All what we needed to do is to follow up on the problems or the failures that have been indicated. Some of them have been successful to clear. As you can see, that the audit action is demonstrating that some of the findings were able to clear as we move along, but we still have to do more. Thanks.
I'm glad that you are also acknowledging that these are repeated findings, and that's what the AG is concerned about, that this is a culture. Yet these are the people who should be most qualified. And MMC, this is where I have a problem. You can't have a senior manager, in fact, a head of a department, who repeats the same mistake of not accounting and compiling the financials of the city. We deal with 82 billion. Yet the citizens of Johannesburg do not look like they live in a city of 82 billion. That's the problem. Why are we not acting? We learned the lesson in May. Why are we not acting?
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Member, one of the acknowledgements we have made, and we had a conversation with the city manager, a frank one in the mayoral committee, to say where there are capacity challenges that may have been identified through our skills audit processes, there were recommendations where we could look at possible rotation of employees. Perhaps sometimes you may find that a person may have been employed in a specific space, but however, the environment and the work that they need to carry out is perhaps not at the level in terms of capacity. So on capacity building, we've had that, but on rotation, to deal with us, to make sure that we have the right person fit for purpose in those particular positions, particularly because we also made this observation that Honorable Member is talking about.
Yeah, go over MMC, but that's just not enough. I'm going to give an example. We run a campaign called Unrestatani Cleanup Campaign as an organization, as EFF. At Ward 11, Johannesburg, that's one of my homes, the same street as the president of the country, his home in Shawel. There's a huge heap of the dumping site. We went to do a cleanup campaign. I was with the chairperson. He was a chairperson then of the region. When I asked for a truck to come and clean up, from pick it up, we were told a story of that. There's a funny sound. They were told some story of how pick it up will not be available to do that. And I asked for the big bin so that people can stop dumping and put the garbage in the bin. Mind you, this space is a space between a school and the township. Kids are crossing there to the school on the other side and the township. Pick it up was nowhere to be found. A week later, we had to fight to get Pick It Up to deal with that. This is an entity that does not collect the bins. The reason why there's that dumping site is because people's bins get full, it's not collected, and then they go dump it to clear their bins. Besides not having a capacity to deal with the budget, expenditure, income, and everything, they cannot do the day-to-day. Hence, my colleague was asking, what is the speciality of the CEO of Pick It Up? Because they don't do work. And my problem is that earlier on, we were told there are issues of finances where Pick It Up is concerned, where service providers are not even paid within 30 days. So if you cannot pay the major service delivery of that affects people's health, who is budgeting against the service at the Pick It Up? Whose problem is it that the trucks of Pick It Up are not paid? How many trucks do we have versus the population or households that require cleaning on a daily basis? If someone can talk to us about, especially Pick It Up, I am asking this to demonstrate that the person who is the head of Pick It Up doesn't know what they are doing and they are not equal to the task. Now, can we be taken through? Earlier on, we're told about the creditors of Pick It Up, but the process wherein this entire Pick It Up mess is concerned, we're not being told. Can we be explained as to what is the budget of Pick It Up to versus the citizens or the households? How many trucks are at Pick It Up? And why are we not paying the creditors? Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Member. In terms of the budget of Pick It Up, they are the fourth in terms of revenues. So they bring around 9 billion worth of revenue each financial year, but a portion of that is subsidized, a subsidy from the City of Johannesburg. In terms of the management of that budget, obviously it's done by the management that Pick It Up. They've got a CFO and the management team there. I think we did outline the process also of moving away from ad hoc fleet to their own compactors. And that's really to deal with the issues of ad hoc fleet, because there was a point where they were switching contracts between ad hoc fleet management, and that had an impact on their operations. In terms of the staff and the augmentation of the co-ops, so they have expanded their own people on the ground by incorporating co-ops in various parts of society. So, for example, when you talk about various regions, there are co-ops there that come straight from the community to help them dealing with the illegal dumping, because some of the things that you did mention, Honourable Member, is actually illegal dumping that happens at various sites. So it might not be a function of Pick It Up not picking up trash. It could be a function of illegal dumping that is done by various players in this whole ecosystem of trash, for the lack of a better word. But yeah, I wanted just to deal with the budget issue and the compactors. I don't know, Ku, if you've got any additions to that.
Chair, if I can also just come in, I think we must also indicate that indeed, Chair, the one matter that we've raised at an executive level, including at the mayoral committee, is the actual supervision of because when we did the ground staff, which is the general workers. So in the last 3 years, we have allowed Pick It Up to recruit about 1,000 additional general workers, which is the staff that obviously go onto the truck and remove the bin. However, the one challenge that we raised with the entity was the lack of supervision of those teams. And part of the analysis we did with the Pick It Up team was that, for an example, that shift starts at 5, and then at about 6, between 6 and 7, the teams are almost done with their work, and they're supposed to be working 8 hours. And that's a matter that we've raised on record with Pick It Up, that they really need to pay attention to the supervision of the staff, because it can't be that by 7, 8, 8:30, the teams are already done and they are going home, and we pay them for 8 hours, and therefore the cleanliness of the city is not at the level where it requires. And that's the first point that we've raised on record and that we are monitoring through the governance system. The second part, Chair, that we've raised with the second area that we've raised with the entities around the separation at source, which is a program of the city that the city adopted around 2011, 2012. And what we were doing at that time was, there's already a community that if you recycle your waste, there's already a market that is already running in terms of recycling. We need to support and partner with the recycling associations and the recyclers, because they are helping us with reduce the waste, so that the waste that remains, we are able to convert into energy. I think earlier on spoke about the waste to energy project that we are running through Pick It Up and the EISD department. So those are the two challenges that I think we've raised with the entity, and we are putting a lot of pressure on the entity to deliver on those, because if you are able to separate the waste, it reduces the amount of waste that goes to the landfill. It will also reduce the amount of waste we put onto the trucks.
Now, we get that. The problem is the cleanliness and not collecting the bins. And CFO, I'm very offended when you say people are illegally dumping. What do you do when your bin is full and the city was responsible to collect it is not collecting it? What must happen? What must happen to a bin that is full and it's not collected because the consistency of collecting bins is not taking place? What must happen? What should those people do?
If I can come in there, Chair, so that we put some of these issues into context. Soweto has increased in terms of population. It's something that we are alive to that fact, and we are referring to Ward 11. And we have taken a view in this budget that was passed now that we are going to increase the frequency. We're currently collecting once a week. It might not be on the day that we committed to do on Wednesday and probably do it on Friday, but the collection will always happen in ward to ward in Soweto without fail once a week. Now, that does not give justification if there's no collection that people must proceed to illegal dumping, but people must find other alternatives to keep the waste in the yard until such time we're able to come, because we do collect on a weekly basis. But we have agreed in this budget, because we are alive to the fact that in Soweto you have a yard which was a 4-room, now it has been turned with back rooms, so there's no longer one family, there's possibly 3 families in one yard. That is why we are now increasing the frequency from the 1st of July as we implement in the new budget to collect at least twice a week in Soweto in particular, something that we have already been doing in Alexander. However, even that being done, we still have people continuing to dump illegally even in Alexander. So I guess what needs to happen also, Honorable Member, is ourselves as political officials to also continue to send a message that illegal dumping is incorrect and it's wrong, and people should not participate in illegal dumping. And I can make simple examples. For example, in Snawani, not far from where you were, we turned a dumping place into a park. Within 3 months, it went back into a dumping place. When we have invested in a park with communities who are supposed to also take responsibility of looking after a park. But I will not agree to a justification of illegal dumping at all. Rather, let's increase our frequency, which we are doing. Secondly, let's increase the number of buyback centers that must also be established within the townships so that we can get waste coming in into our things. There are also programs around separation of source, because we are also alive to the fact that waste in itself is money and it's an economy. So those are the projects that Pick It Up is also trying to do. But I don't agree with illegal dumping. We do spend a lot of money on an annual basis focusing on illegal dumping, and it's taking away resources that we should be implementing or investing in other areas to improve the city. But honorable member, our responsibility is to ensure that we increase the frequency and give it 6 months pilot and check whether it will change the behavior of the people of Soweto. But it's also a behavioral issue that people need to change, and we must find a way of communicating that behavioral change in our townships.
Thanks. Honorable Member, ask your last two together. You're over already.
No, okay, thank you, Chair. Now, I will still disagree with that it's an illegal dumping, because if you have ever lived in a township where you see rats as big as a baby coming from the bin, and the second thing is that even that Pick It Up doesn't leave black bags for the people. You give them one bin, you don't collect it, you don't give them black bags to keep the extra waste. For some reason, you expect the bins to overflow, and they must do nothing about it, they must keep it. If you have experience of those rats, you will know what I'm talking about. I want to ask two questions. In your spreadsheet of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, there is 2 transactions I would like to get explanation about. There's a transaction of Quistec of 43 million. Automated passenger counters cost written off. And what was that about? The second one is a housing project by Kunene Rampala, A834. There was no evidence that work was done, but there was 36 million paid. It's under investigation. Well, I want you to take us through those two. There was a third one. The second question goes to MPEG. AG says internal audit is doing its best. And it says MPEG is also doing its best in terms of accountability. But I want to check on the issues of support, as well as explaining on the irregular expenditure. There's a company here called ArtCall, which has a lot of write-offs, and it amounts to a whole lot of money, more than R1 billion. How did it come about? As well as what the AG is saying, that they are satisfied. However, they think you can do more if you get more support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and good evening to both our chairs and members of Parliament. Yeah, as MPEG, maybe I should highlight as to who is MPEG in the city of Johannesburg. We are a committee of 16 members. We had 40 meetings in each and every financial year, and in those meetings we never experienced the difficulty of quorum. We have never experienced a meeting collapse. We are determined to work. In MPEC, we can't say we have many challenges because the members of MPEC highly motivated. They are going extra mile. Even after we received the annual report late, already MPEC is ready. They came up with dates. In order for us to sit and process the annual report. On the 17th, we are sitting. On the 18th, we are sitting. On the 30th, we are sitting. On the 8th, we are sitting. And on the 17th, we'll be adopting the report. They are even willing to work during recess because they understand the importance of dealing with the issues of the city. They even agreed that we don't want to leave office with anything pending. We want to finish all the reports that will be coming to us. We currently have nothing on the table. We have since returned those 34 reports which were not in compliance with Circular 68. And I think is the circular which is now making the city drag its feet because it was amended in April. And then now we had to return those reports for them to comply with the circular because the circular was implemented before they get to be submitted. We are trying our best, Member of Parliament. We are motivated. That's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Now the write-offs of ADCO.
With regards to Questec, the city had procured for our BRT buses a software or an application that we're going to use because it's going to be installed on our buses, on our Gautrain BRT is Rea Vaya, sorry. Eish. End of day, my apologies for that. And it was then found that the software we bought or the system we bought was not compatible. It was, in as much as it was processed by MPEC, there's a process to recover. Unfortunately, when we started with the recovery, Group Legal has indicated that there are challenges with Questec. It appears that they are currently under liquidation. So we have been following up in terms of recovering the financial loss to the city. On ADCOL is a panel of service providers that the city engages to recover or to collect from our customers. There's an aging of the debt, and they're supposed to collect anything over and above, I think 60 days. 60 days. Unfortunately, what had happened was that when the contract was about to come to an end, the city had not concluded the new procurement process, and we then appointed that ADCOL panel in terms of Regulation 36, but that was found to be non-compliant. So it is not one service provider, it's a list of service providers, but on the ADCOL panel. Why it's been written off is because there has been collections by the various attorneys on that panel on the basis that they would then have been paid. On the issue of the Kunene Ramapala matter, this is a new finding, relatively new, and it is currently under investigation. The AG raised issue, I think Group Legal and Human Settlements did attempt to provide the necessary evidence to the AG in terms of work that had been done. But I think one of the factors was, that was a challenge, was that the delays in providing the adequate information to the AG and the engagements that were subsequently held, the city was not to justify or effectively provide the necessary evidence. So what it has then meant is that it is now on the register of those matters that are to be investigated. It is only after that investigation that we can then provide further details in terms of what essentially has happened. But it is flagged, it is one of the matters that is being investigated. Thanks. I did speak to Questec, there's the BRT one, where the resolution was that we're going to recover, but we are experiencing challenges.
There's an offer for more information.
No, thank you, Chair. In as far as it relates to Questec, a legal process was initiated. The claim was lodged. However, during the process, Questec was liquidated. And as such, we could not proceed with the recovery since the company has been liquidated. That is the precise answer I can give at this point. Thank you.
No, the last one was that projects were halted or stopped, JDA. 8 million had been already spent. There's 2 of them, I just can't find the second one. Under the fruitless and wasteful expenditure.
We have had those instances where it would have been either due to rebasing or budget reallocations, and the project gets suspended or abandoned. And as a result, because the project has not been completed, we must then realize the associated expenditure, which becomes fruitless and wasteful. But the circumstances, the full circumstances, whether it is really rebasing or there may have been other factors, that is the subject of an investigation.
All right, so let me just ask, do you know for certain that was the reason in this particular case, or you're speaking generally? I can't work out which side of the blade your answer is.
I think the best response would be we can then get the detailed report to the committee on that particular.
Okay, so you
do have such projects that have been identified, and AG raises issue, and we then flag them for further investigation. But we can then provide a detailed report on this particular one.
Okay, so your answer was a general answer, not pertaining to this. I just want to be sure so that I know what to expect.
Chair. It
Okay.
was on the basis that when there has been rebasing or reprioritization of projects, there are projects that then get discontinued.
Okay, we will make a detailed info a request on that. There was something Honorable Mente asked about. In your answer, you said there was a non-compliance. You referred to a panel. I just missed the name. You said there was a non-compliance. What was the non-compliance?
Okay. The reappointment of the ADCOL panel was in terms of what we call Regulation 36, a deviation. But then frequently, when we get audited, the AG looks at the circumstances prior to us opting for a Regulation 36. So, for example, in this case, there was an open competitive bidding process. It's delayed. And then the justifications that we then provide as the city to the AG concludes that it is due to poor planning. And the justification on the basis of which the city may have approved the utilization of Regulation 36 did not hold.
Why was the tender process delayed?
There are various reasons for the delays in our procurement processes.
Now we mean this one.
Particular one, I cannot say why it was delayed, Chair. It's a matter of then going in and getting the necessary details for that particular tender.
Okay, we might need to have a follow-up on procurement matters at another time. We won't have time now, because my difficulty is that your answers are general. To the spreadsheet came from you, so when I say you, I mean the city. So you should have known that we are going to ask about the information that you've given to us. So when you give general answers, it doesn't assist us, because we can't work out, therefore, what the problem is. Is it a general pattern? Honorable Member has picked those, but you may find that the pattern persists through many, right? In which case, then we have to get an understanding of what the deeper problem may be. So, but we'll likely have a follow-up. Honorable Member, you went way over, so I am going to ask you to stand down, because Honorable Matuna is now ready. He's been gymming there next to you.
Thanks, Chair. Umundabulise ngomnyama. No, I've been following the proceedings, Chair, since the morning. So I'm well up to date in terms of what has been happening. But greetings to you, Chair, the Chair of COGTA, our honorable members, the City of Joburg, the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and your executives that are getting paid very well. It makes me to rethink my career. Maybe I should have remained in that space. No,
he has dreams of living in Dubai. This one.
I mean, getting ±4 is a good thing, Chair. No, thanks, Chair. Chair, I think my first question would be that earlier on, one of the honorable members would have asked around the issue that you would have taken a strategic decision to insource securities and cleaners, I think. And then I think one of the answers would have that have had an impact on your unauthorized expenditure. Did I capture it right?
Yes, honorable member. Yes.
Oh, so usually when a council takes a decision like that, it usually warrants you to review, to do an institutional review, basically review your chronogram. Did that process happen?
No, it did not happen, Honorable Member.
So how did you end up appointing those securities and cleaners, if you did not include them in your, what we basically call it, organogram?
Maybe to answer there, it was during the new coalition that was established, and the numbers were on their side, and the report came to council, and it was approved that they should be insourced. It was not informed by budget, it was not informed by an institutional review.
But Mama, usually when you take a decision like this, it would go then with a reviewed organogram so that the appointments would happen. Generally, that would be that, so that then it would say that we have these additional posts, and that subsequently speaks to budget. So that's why I'm asking that, did you go through that process?
No, the coalition at that time, led by the Democratic Alliance, brought in the report, the numbers on their side, and they voted in support of the report, and there was implementation of the report.
So you appointed people that you do not have in Okonogram or that you would have not budgeted for.
Exactly.
Is that correct? Is that correct, Sefo?
I think the mayor has covered it, honorable member, in terms of what happened in the past. I think the key issue was also in terms of the shift system that the securities worked and other issues around the security, because it's not just one warm body, it's various warm bodies in terms of replacement of those. But yes, I think the executive mayor has covered what probably transpired during the time.
Yes, but Mayor, I have a problem with the way in which you answer. As much as I agree that it's a council decision, but as in when you do, or perhaps let me put it like that, like this to the city manager. When you went through with the process and advertised, it was informed by what? Given that you had not done an institutional review.
Honorable member, maybe let's put the perspective. In an ideal, normal situation, that's what should happen. In this case, there was a council decision to insource all securities from the service provider who were providing us with the security and the cleaners of the city. Then a report was then brought into council for council to approve. And the numbers that were required voted in support of that report. Of course, other parties that were in the opposition, like my party that I came from, objected. But unfortunately, as you'd know, that in council, the numbers also matters. That's how the report went through. And then the recruitment itself then happened. Once the report was approved, the recruitment happened at the service providers, not an advert, but those that were in the post were then supposed to be, integrated. If you think about integration in 1994, it's more or less a similar process that took place. As long as you're a security part and you're responsible for the door here from a private company, then you were insourced, which then costed us about an additional 700 million or so. That was not part of our budget that we had to, I think it's about 7, I can't remember the figures, that we had to then try and find the money. So that's exactly what happened in the process.
I find it hard to believe that things like this in the age of the MFMA still happen. Because ordinarily, even if you do agree that you must insource, you must go to an advert so that you give everyone a fair chance to be a security guard or a cleaner of the city. Now, when you would have insourced those people that were of the service provider, did you do verifications of their qualification? Did you do the proper screening that then would have been done when you are employing someone?
No, I think what the mayor is emphasizing that there was a policy decision taken by a government in 2016. And that policy decision was that we're going to insource all security.
No. I don't disagree with the policy. I agree with the policy.
Yeah,
but what I disagree with is the process.
Yeah.
Because everyone must be given a fair chance. Yeah. Now, what I'm asking is, did you do screenings to ensure that the people that you are hiring are adequately qualified to be securities, besides the screening that would have been done by a service provider? I'm asking this because if I'm running a security company, Maduna Protective Services, as my brother wants a job, I can employ him even if he does not qualify because it's my business. But now when you as a city absorb my employees, it's a problem. I'm questioning you, did you do the screening on them before absorbing them?
I'm saying the basis of the insourcing and the absorption, honorable member, was that the security guard at the time of the insourcing process was working for Maduna Protective Services and was guarding a site in the city. And what happened, because that insourcing was done that way without the screening process that you are talking to, when the administration changed in 2019, there were reports that some of the people were insourced as security guards were not fit to be security guards. And the report then was sanctioned by the mayor then, which showed some of the people that were employed there, some of them were undocumented foreigners, and some of them did not have the required qualifications. So the process did not follow the normal process. I think we all accepted that the process when the insourcing happened in 2016 didn't follow all the criteria, in essence, Honorable Member. And I agree with you that should not have happened, but it happened.
So currently, do you still have these security guards that were employed by DA? Because we must put it that here, DA employed foreign nationals in Joburg. Because they always say that they are running clean government. We must be frank about these things. Now, what did you do about them when you done that report that showed you that you even employed foreign nationals in that thing?
So in 2020, those security guards who did not meet the requirement, like having your SIRA certification, some of them were terminated, Chair.
Just to say, Honourable Member, Honourable Leah North at that time was head of corporate services. So the process would have been...
Okay, sorry. And I was conferring with my colleague here, so I didn't actually hear.
I apologize. My name, first of all, is Leah Potgieter. I have reverted back to that name, and I would appreciate being called by it. But the mayor has alluded 3 times to me running the city of Joburg, which is neither true nor factual. The second inaccurate statement he's made, I was not the head of corporate services at the time that he's talking about. And that is the absolute truth. So I would appreciate if he would stick to answering the questions instead of sticking to, the member has asked him very pertinent questions, and it's based on what he has been doing and what the officials have done. I don't see anything wrong with the question, but what I do see is him trying to lay blame across the side of the desk. I have not done none of these things, and if he has got allegations, he's more than welcome to table them, and I will respond to them accordingly. Thank you.
If I may rephrase, Chair.
Before that, Chair wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I just want to check with you. Is there anything wrong when we are engaging on a matter where at the time someone who's a member of parliament currently was part of that particular process, and then you refer to that member to say, Honorable Direko was part of this particular process? Is there anything wrong with that?
Okay, now you've stopped the Chair. Z was about to deal with the matter. Now we don't know what to do.
No, just for your interest, it happens at this time of the day. This is how the debate tends to develop. Gets us pretty interested and more focused. So let me say, no, we should sustain the objection. But this is how it should work. Firstly, it is correct for the mayor to state the circumstances under which something that might be questionable could have happened and give you a context. Whether he agrees with it or doesn't agree, there's nothing wrong in saying that there was a different view from those who are in charge, which might, whether it was Democratic Alliance or whatever name, there's no problem in naming them. What is an issue, though, is that you are correct, Honorable Matuna, for raising the issue with this council because they are the successor in office, so they carry the burden of the good and the bad that happened before them. It does not necessarily mean it's them personally, but they have to answer questions. I'm still going to ask questions which would have happened at a time when I don't know whether these councillors were even members of the council, but they've got to answer because there's no one else we can ask. What may not be appropriate is to name one person and say that one was part of it. The simple reason for it is that as we speak now, Honorable Potgieter, did you say? Yeah, Honorable Potgieter does not have an obligation to respond on behalf of the city. she can respond on behalf of the DA, and you can take her on issues that have got to do with the DA here. We won't stop you. But we will not ask her to respond on behalf of a municipality over which she's got no mandate anymore. She doesn't have the mandate. But if it's information that she was there that time, that's fine. But not because we've got an expectation that she needs to answer the question. She will not answer the question. She must answer the question about Gauteng legislature now. If I was, there have been a few times when things happened and I have to question people who were part of a department when I was a minister, actually. And that is because I'm no longer the minister, I'm here now. So the point I'm making is that in this issue, it is important to go back to what the context was. And I don't have any objection if Honorable Maduna is attacking the DA for the things you say happened during that time. The parties must fight that out, although this is not so much their platform. But you can't assign an individual on the basis of a history of involvement because there's no more a mandate. This is a formal accountability process where the city, as constituted, will answer for the sins of those who came before them. And if they were wrong, and the mayor said, I didn't agree with the decision, but the decision was taken, she has to carry it because he has to carry it because he's the mayor now. So I want us to leave it at that, and let's not stray back into that aspect. It tends to be interesting because sometimes we want to needle each other out. It's fine. This is politics. So if you want to play politics, Honorable Mayor, they will take you on. The MK, the TA, the ANC will tackle you. It doesn't matter. But I want to advise you, when you're dealing with these issues, stick to the technical facts. Because then there's neutrality in facts. There's not a problem of different views, because different views are going to create a debate. So that's my suggestion, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Chair. So you wanted to reframe your comment. Also, the objection is sustained, therefore. Okay, thank you. The matter is closed. All right. Honorable Maduna, my worry is that I didn't stop my clock. I will give you 7 minutes. No, back. I'll give you 7 minutes back. That's what I mean. Yeah.
No, thanks, Chair. No, it's important, Chair, because in South Africa we have an issue of a number of young people who are unemployed. And we know many of them do have this serious thing in that. And it has been a culture in South Africa that companies tend to employ people from outside who do not have the correct paperwork. So it was important for me to canvass the issue so that our people will know who's who in the zoo, who employed people who are here, because I'm certain some of them were even illegal. But my next question, I want to check, Mayor, have you done since then, have you ever done an institutional review?
I think we answered earlier, but we are in the...
Answer simply and in short.
Oh, no, we are doing it now.
Okay, so they will carry on being a regular expenditure. I get it. Okay, on the I want on note 22, or is it 22 CFO? Ne? I say that you have some ongoing matters in court in relation to some ongoing legal issues, of which obviously we would not be certain about their outcome. But I noticed that you do not have any provisions that are made for that in your financial statements. Why?
For legal matters in the financial statements, we do disclose the contingent liability linked to that. You can only, so contingent liability is where it's more it's probable but not likely because it's still in court. We then disclose that there's a contingent liability. Provision is where it's more likely to happen than not, and then so they are how you classify.
No, sorry, it's just the wording. I wanted to say that I think it's note 72 between page 1 87 and 207. There is an extensive list of your legal and litigation claims, obviously from different residents or others. But I'm saying to you, you have not made any provisions in terms of contingency. Just forgive me, I was reading something on provisions on this. Why? That's what I wanted to check.
Let me allow Tsoledi to come in, Honorable Member. He'll explain the contingent liability and the provision thereof. Yeah.
No, I understand that. I'm saying ordinarily, if you have an, I'm repeating this. I know what is the difference. That I must assure you, I know what is the difference. I'm saying to you, I was just reading something on provision. That's why it's still on my head. I'm saying to you, you have a lot of these litigation claims against you as a city. And your estimate of the contingent liability is not quantified. And on top of that, I think also the AG raises it that there no provision for any liability that may arise for this is made by you as a municipality. That's what I'm asking you, and I'm asking you why you did not make any and why did you not quantify this?
Good evening, honorable members of parliament. As the GCFO has alluded, so there is a test that is required when we're doing the disclosure for GRAP. So that test, we sit with the lawyers in terms of where the case is. You find that sometimes the case was just filed. So at that stage, you don't know whether there is any probability of losing the case or not, because it's just a new matter that is high. So when we're doing the GRAP test, it doesn't meet a definition of a provision, because a provision deals with a probability higher than not for a matter to happen. So now, at that stage, when it's a possibility, we just disclose it as a contingency. Then we track the movement of the case to a point where the lawyer will advise if there's a probability of losing the case. When there's a probability of losing the case, we do provide in the financial statement. I think there's note, just want to get to the right note where we have put like the matter with Salga, where we put the provision in there. So where we know that there's a probability of losing the case, we do provide for those matters.
It's on, I'm speaking about note 72 on contingency liabilities, not provisions. I tried to explain this again. I'm saying to you, they are between page 187 and 207 on the group financial statement. There is an extensive list of legal and legitimate claims by residents and companies to you. The notes, the note provide details of contingencies. However, a lot of these claims and estimated contingency liability is not quantified. That's what I'm saying to you. As a result, OAG raised this matter as a matter of emphasis that the group defendants in various claims, but the ultimate outcome, obviously, we know that you don't know. But no provision for any liability that may result has been made by the municipality in the consolidated or separate financial statements. AG also raised this issue. I'm asking you, why didn't you make any provisions? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, in this case, you find that there's matters that doesn't have a necessary financial implication in terms of outflow for the city. You might find that someone filed for eviction, for instance. They don't want to go out. Maybe we've put in the eviction order and they just filed into court that they don't want to maybe move out. In that case, there's no an amount, however, there is a legal case pending for that, then that's where we disclose. Remember, when there's a potential outflows of economic benefits from the city, that's where we put in the amounts in those figures.
So AG went on and raised it anyway, even though you would have given this explanation.
Yeah, I think, Chair, the explanation is correct in that there are those type of matters where there's eviction issues and there is no quantum in as far as the the claim is concerned. However, what became an issue, or because I was involved in that process, what became an issue is when should we budget for a contingent liability. The position held by the institution at some point is that we shouldn't budget for contingent liability at the point of a letter of demand or a summons, purely because it is not payable in the immediate future. And so therefore, that whole area from an institution point of view was not budgeted for. But AG indicated that if it is in your litigation register and it's got a value and all these things, it should be budgeted for. And they found
No. In the interest of time, thanks. I actually hold the view, Chair. Given that your adjusted budget was unfunded, you know what impact that would have had in it. That's why you did not budget for it. That's the view that I hold. But let's pass. I want to check, is Helen Pottis still employed by the city?
No, honorable member.
Okay. No, thank you. I wanted to check that because I know that their case with is still ongoing, so that's why I wanted to check that. On City Power, what is their? I know previously they ran on 16 billion overdraft. What is their overdraft now?
Currently, as at the fourth quarter, it's around 17 billion.
Have you done anything about this?
So part of the strategies that we discussed earlier on was the turnaround of City Power and making sure that operationally they are efficient and they are self-sustaining. So it is part of those strategies. I think we have been requested to put those strategies that were approved by Council, monitored by National Treasury to this committee, and we'll do that because it's part of them turning around the business. We are also looking at various aspects of that overdraft, including our discussions with SARS, just to restructure the balance sheet of City Power. But before that's done, we need to finalize our matters with SARS. But yes, the turnaround of City Power has gone through Council, and it's now part of the trading reforms monitored by National Treasury.
When was the strategy approved again?
It was approved so in the Council of May, and with the implementation of the 1st of July. So it includes the performance information that will be vetted by National Treasury for us to participate in the program of the Metro trading reforms.
So I would assume the senior managers at City Power are the Section 56 or that report direct to the CFO?
No.
So would it be correct to employ a senior manager with a national diploma?
On which position is that, honorable member? Because the Section 56 employee, in terms of COCTA regulations, it's a person that is directly reporting to the city manager or the municipal manager. So the structures within an entity is then different, even the naming of that. But I can also just request Mr. Mbulela Ruda to indicate specifically on that.
Yeah, can you help us to understand what thoroughly, or what are they called, those that report directly to the CEO in the entities? In City Power, to be specific.
Okay, we're not under attack. Carry on, Honorable Matun. You've got just one more question.
I've asked. I'm just waiting for.
Sorry, Chair, Mbulela Ruda just went to the bathroom. He's coming. Apologies.
Okay. Because
you've got one more. That was not the last one.
Because Chair will have to go back to that. It's important for me. I want to check on the issue of the matters that my colleague would have raised, particularly on the matter of the collectors of your debtors. your correction rate is not impressive. It shows with the write-offs. Now, I want to check this list. Why, when you disclose it, because I want us to speak about your IFS, and why, when you disclose it, if you are saying it's multiple service providers within it, why you are not separating it? Because it's misleading now, it's giving us, and it's a lot of money, I actually been calculating. It's giving us an overall. And secondly, I'm just gonna make an example in terms of how I view your SCM, and I think you do have a problem. For instance, let's go to City Power. They did a deviation, appointment of service provider for recruitment, selection, and placement of 400 general workers. I mean, what is impossible with that in terms of following the SCM processes? Appointment of service provider to conduct audit and forensic investigation. I mean, there are many people who do this. What is the issue? Why is your SCM in everything? If I look at your deviation register, you have many emergency, of which most of them, even the AG says that they were not really emergency procurement. And I think, Chair, if we were to canvass them one by one, because I think also they also know and they agree that these should not have been deviations. And this would have been as a result of poor planning. There's a sole supplier whereby in practicality, I think they use this one in emergency a lot. I want to just check with the example that I've made, and in relation to the example that my colleagues would have made, what consequences, especially with the amount that you have written off? I think it's a 1.37. If I'm not mistaken on my notes, I had written it down, but I've just lost it. With the amount that you had written off, have you recovered anything, especially other fruitless and wasteful expenditure? And lastly, why are you not paying Eskom on time? Is it because you don't have money, or are there other issues? And thereof, those who are responsible for making payments, what are the responsibilities? Because I see on your spreadsheet that it's from different departments.
On AdCall, Attorney Collections Panel, we have actually unpacked the payments to each attorney firm that is on the panel. So we haven't, on the register, we haven't given one ball figure, but it's a long list of those service providers that were paid, and it's disclosed on the register. On the...
Sorry, where Chair, maybe we received that document, because in the register that we are reading, it's not separated. It only says ADCO contracts.
So it doesn't then state the service providers underneath. You haven't, eh?
What are we hiding?
Sorry. No, we have submitted, it's part of the documentation that was submitted as additional information. The supplementary submission.
Okay, no, it's my colleague confirms that they did, Honorable Matun. So my suggestion is this: these procurement matters, we must just deal with them in a particular session, because we're not going to do them justice here at all. But Mr. Ruta is back. Do you remember that question that had no answer because Mr. Ruta, the one before your last year? So can you ask it, and then that's the end of your...
Mr. Ruta, I wanted to check the people who report to the CEO at City Power. What do you call them? Directly reporting to the CEO.
Sorry, at City Power, they will be executive managers, but I think the question is whether we do not see them. I think we got a legal opinion sometime that they are not Section 56 employees of the city, because they are employed by the government, but they are not Section 56 employees, so they are seen as executive managers.
Oh, okay, so I would assume that their salaries are saying they are senior managers, ne?
Yeah.
They are senior managers.
Yeah, in the companies, the senior managers.
So would someone with a national diploma, that's what was my question, be a senior manager?
I think in terms of the current regulations, because what we've done, Honorable Member, we have requested through COGTA that these people should be regulated through the same regulations that regulate us as senior managers. As you recall, that COGTA has issued the qualification criteria for different posts. So it might be possible in some instance because there's no regulation in essence that says the person, for you to be a senior manager, you should have this qualification. It is possible, but I've not collided with that yet.
No, Chair, as my last question, because I'm seeing one of your adverts, I think even the last time we would have met, we would have asked about some of your adverts of managers, where you just get an advert of a senior manager that requires national diploma. This appears to be tailor-made for someone.
If you can give me the advert.
No, I can share you. You see, it was a senior manager, PMO New Business Development. Senior manager, I must state this. Yeah. Senior manager, PMO New Development. Besides what are my requirements? National diploma in marketing, commerce, or business management. 7 years experience, which 3 must be at media management, 3 at energy discipline. There is no way that.
All right, no, thanks very much, Honorable Maduna. I just want to follow up on some of, at least one aspect, not with you, Mr. Ruta, with the CFO and his colleague next to you on the left, on the notes. So I just hope I still have it in front of me. So because I became interested in the contingent liabilities and therefore the provisions or lack thereof, I did see an entry there where there was a VAT claim from SARS and it wasn't quantified. That just struck me as something unusual, because you would have some idea of what SARS's claim would be, wouldn't you? I'm just trying to find the page. But it's somewhere. Why wouldn't there be a quantity for a VAT claim? And there's quite a few by SARS. Would you know? Yeah. Okay, that section is long. Okay, while I find it, can I just engage with you on that aspect that he was asking around at which point do you make provision for court cases? So it should be possible to say at which stage of the litigation you make provision. You surely can describe which stage of the litigation you start making provisions, because when you say there's a possibility of losing the case, you're second guessing the judge. You don't actually, you might know, but in some cases you might think you're going to win the case and then you still lose it. So according to your policy, at which stage of the litigation do you consider it to have crossed over to the threshold of you needing to make a provision?
No, thank you, Chair. I think our position as Group Legal, it was that we will do that as soon as we get a notice of set down. From that point, that is when we were making a determination that now we have entered that space where at any given time, within a foreseeable future, this matter would be heard. And the likelihood of winning or losing is there. However, and that's why the AG has recorded it as such, the AG disagrees with that particular position. He says, no, you don't have to wait for that time when you've got a notice of down. As soon as you get the summons and there is a figure there which appears on your litigation register, such matters should be provided for in your contingency liability.
Okay. Are you at one with the finance people on this? I just want to be certain. So you now agree with the Auditor General, in other words, or is it one of the matters in dispute? I just want to be.
No, I don't agree with the Auditor General, Chair.
No, sure, but you are on the legal. You're on the legal side, right?
Yeah. Yes, I'm on the legal
I
side.
need somebody in finance.
I'm on the same side with the
That's what I was asking. Are you at one
with the finance.
with the finance?
No, they will answer for.
So can you just say, so if the matter gets set down for, if in other words, if you have a date, then you make provision for it, because that's what set down means. Case management says that you shall do this and that and on a particular date, responding after the heads of argument and all the rest of it, and then a hearing will be on such and such a date. So you are saying you diligently at that point make provision.
As soon as the pleadings closes and we've got the notice of set down, that's when we are of the view that this the provision should be made. However, the AG did not agree with that position. I thank you.
Okay, so where is the matter now? So how do you treat these now?
I'm of the view that I can't argue with the Chapter 9 institution chair. I'll have to fall back to what the AG provides for.
So what is in these financials then is what the AG disagreed with. Okay, but I don't understand why it is in here then, because these are audited financial. They're not, eh? They're audited, yeah, they're audited. That's why I was asking if this is one of the matters in dispute right now that have delayed the publication of the tabling of the financials. You see what I mean is, if your answer is, we agree with the AG, the treatment, it should be clear then here that it reflects the fact that you now agree, you've obeyed what the AG is saying. And if I'm being confused, you don't be afraid. Just tell me, Chair, you are confused.
Evening, Chair. So in how it works with regard to provision, we have to look at the source or the cause of that case in the first place. So you'll find out there's instances where a service provider has provided a service for the city. And maybe now the dispute is about maybe the quality of work and all of those things. So in that instance, you know that the service was provided. As much as you might not have been up to the satisfactory of what we expected at the city, we'll have to raise a provision for the service received as the city of Johannesburg. That's the first instances where we raise a provision. So in other instance is when someone comes and claim maybe a loss from the city of some sort. Maybe I'll make an example. I think there was one case where someone said due to the Catherine Drive being changed, now I've lost income. And this is how much of income I've lost, and they're claiming that from the city. So in this case, it's a separate issue because there's no service that the city received at all. So now we're gonna have to depend on the specialities, and our specialties here as an accountant is the lawyers. So when the matter has been put or tabled to the court and is still in hearing, we ask about the probability of the case outcome. Do you think we have a solid case on this thing, or we don't have a solid case? And the lawyer will tell us based on the laws and how they have viewed the case going in, and they will tell us that the chances of these guys winning this case are less than 50%. It's a possibility, but we hardly believe that they can win the case. In that case, we raise a contingent liability. Then, as the case progresses, we get an update. Each and every year when we're doing our financial statements, we get an update from the lawyers. How far is the case?
Can I tell you why that's problematic?
Okay. Yeah.
What if your legal person tells you, hey man, I don't know which way the judge is going to decide? What do you do? What do you do? If your lawyers tell you it's 50-50, what do you do then?
Yeah, remember, Chair, the probability is 75%. So we work on probability, and that's what the standard guides us.
Determined by who?
by GRAP.
No, I know, but who determines the probability?
The expert in this case will be our legal counsel.
I will need to check that.
Yeah.
And Honorable Maduna is the person who knows more about that. Let me say, you are an accountant.
Yeah.
Let's take you out of the city of Johannesburg. Let us say, Grenada LTA is being sued for 800 million by somebody. The purpose of these disclosures is to give an accurate picture to the users of the financial statements, internal and external. Too much of that level of disclosure that is required depends on the subjective opinion of somebody who may actually be extremely incompetent at their job. Because I'm now going to ask you, do you in each case get senior counsel's advice? Or do you rely on your colleagues to tell you? Yeah, I mean, you said an expert. Your person who works inside, that's why organizations go and seek senior counsel's advice outside. So you've got somebody in legal who's scoring 1s and 2s in their performance assessment. You're relying on them to determine, as an expert, the probability that a judge will decide one way or the other. That's just not scientific, I can tell you. You get me? So how can you rely on that person? But how do you rely on that person to tell you? A person who has an interest in the case. That can't work. I'm sorry. So who tells you the probabilities? It's senior counsel.
No, Chair. Ordinarily what would happen is once the matter is defendable, we would instruct an external attorney. So during that process, there will be an engagement between myself, either an attorney, the junior counsel or a senior counsel, depending on the complexity of the matter. Indeed, there is an external advice on the matter.
You guys were doing well when you said set down, because it's an objective criteria. It doesn't second guess the court. You are now saying you take some person, an attorney even, to second guess the judge on your behalf. Because I'm now going to ask you, how often are those practitioners right? You see? So those provisions are bogus. They're bogus, they're inaccurate. That's a really terrible way of making a financial quantification. That I'm going to ask my colleagues to say, trust me, bro. No, but seriously, that's what it is, because you don't know what is in the court's mind. Do you understand? When you were doing well, and I nearly dropped the issue when you said, it's set down. It's an objective criteria. There is a certain milestone. Once that is triggered, we put it on the books. It doesn't second guess anybody. But now sometimes you're going to trust somebody who's being performance managed out of the organization, maybe. And that's a problem with your method. You need to change it, in my view. Honorable Matun.
No, thanks, Chair. I think part of the reasons why ordinarily, because these would not be disclosed. I think I've just forget if Ifra speaks about this, but I know that it's usually based on probability and measurability. But now, given that the budget of the city, the adjustment budget is already unfunded. Now, once there's a probability and there's measurability, you must, because when it's a contingency liability, I think, you only disclose it on notes. But then once there's a probability, which is what H is saying, and it's measurable, it means you must raise a provision. Now, a provision is an expense. I think now you get it as to why it's not in the financial statements. They are already at an unfunded budget. That is why I had a problem with the explanation that I was being given, because I've seen something like this before. It's exactly, leave alone that a draft it was being done at a larger scale, but it's something of a similar nature.
So here's what we'll do. So we'll ask for the opinion of both the AG and the Accountant General. So here's what I think that probability means. That probability means if somebody sends you a letter of demand, you don't know whether they're serious or not. They must prove that they're serious. Okay. But once somebody files court papers and there's been case management meeting, and you know when the responding affidavits must be filed, you know when the heads of argument must be in, etc., etc. Now you can start saying, this thing is going ahead. You may believe that you are going to win it, but the reason in the financial statement it's important to make that disclosure is because somebody, a creditor, may want to know that you may actually get wiped for 4 billion. Depending on the size of the claim. It's not second guessing there. You might have a policy that says when it's north of whatever, we make provision X. It's not the whole amount, whatever the case might be. But asking your colleague to tell you what they think is not it. I don't think that is what was envisaged. And I can tell you that is why the AG disagrees. That's my view. I might be wrong, but that view that's at a milestone, once it gets crossed, that was for me a sensible answer, but hey. No, Mr. Ruta, go ahead. So the moment you make the disclosure, right? So remember the moment you make the disclosure on its own is important. The provision is also important. The reason the disclosure is important is so that the people who use your financial statements may decide what their own decisions need to be. That's important for that reason. Secondly, you also want to make sure that you've provided for this eventuality. Now, your policy might say we only provide at a particular time, in which case you make the provision at that time. I have no fight with that. You sort it out with the AG. What I have a problem with is going to my colleague to second guess the judge. That one, I don't agree with it. But anyway, we can leave it unless you want to litigate it further. But
no, it's fine, Chair. We are agreeing. I think this is where the mayor ordinarily says, Sakala will never say we are going to win the case. He's always saying, it's 50-50.
And you see the problem with 50-50. Now you treat a case that your colleague says is 50-50 differently to a case that actually for the judge is a slam dunk against you. Now you've entered a wrong accounting entry because you're second guessing. That's my point. Okay, I'm not fighting.
Actually, Chair, if we would take it further, they also have no line item for contingency liability in their financial statements. So I think I agree with you when you say let's leave it.
Okay, we'll talk to the Accountant General. Chair, you had some questions. Am I ambushing you now?
No, you're not. Okay. No, you can never ambush me.
He's still a guerrilla. He's always alert.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. No, actually, it's part of your training. You get trained to anticipate ambushes. Let me just say, I'd like to just make my comments, and after that, give it back to you. I don't necessarily need answers, but I want just a few things. Firstly, I want to say to the colleagues from the city that we just need to understand what is this exercise about. That it's an exercise in accountability. And in our case, it's based on largely two issues: the AG's report and service delivery reports or challenges. So this whole day is all about that for us. We want to ensure that there's accountability in the process. So we will therefore raise issues in the interest of good governance and also in terms of public interest. And there's nothing personal. Sometimes things get you worked out, but it's about consequence management. We want to know what has happened now that things have gone wrong. So that's really the focus here. And also, we always try and encourage respondents to focus on technical explanations and facts. Don't try and debate, because we specialize in debate. So you slant your points. We don't expect you to be wanting to argue, but therefore we'll take you on. And that, I think, is something that you just need to. And we keep saying, sometimes what drags the meeting is you don't give a technical, factual answer. You're trying to convince me, and now I can feel that, and therefore we don't go there because you don't give the answer. You actually want to, manage the situation. So it doesn't work like that. Now, our major issue with the City of Johannesburg has been said here. I will just go through it because that's for us the major issue. It's a regression in the audit outcomes. And the AG says it's lack of actions. There were things that were raised last year that were not acted upon, and therefore we've got a problem now. So you have got, a problem where there was a delay in you responding to the AG. Now, we're not sure how, which is which. That's why we're interested in the letters to the minister, because the question for us was the part of the delays in the responses were for you an issue for which you had to pick up a dispute. Now, the AG believes the reason for it is because your capacity to respond is somehow compromised. You've not been able to act properly, but it's not just the response to the AG, but it's also response to the irregularities that were raised previously. That's been a problem. So the issues of poor revenue correction, procurement irregularities, and when the issue of unjustifiable procurements which are beyond the explanation that we expected, that there were no possibilities of going on an open tender, and the amount is huge, and high debt gearing in our, I think somewhere they indicated something like 45% of the debt, and that was pretty high. And then, of course, the repeat offenses. If you've got the same problem being repeated, then you've got a problem. And the issue of unquantified contingent liabilities, for us, we understand the issue of the Auditor General is about trying to spot the risk in your financial management and control system. And if you don't price the contingent liability, you are not pricing the risk that you face for the year. And so I think your debate may be kind of a defensive debate. From where we sit, you have to be able to price the risk, because if you win the case, there's no risk to you. If you lose the case, the whole thing is going to crumble, and you didn't make provision for it. And so I think what the colleagues are raising here is a question that we can't think is a matter of debate. It's a matter of, once the AG says so, we actually believe that the AG is correct, because if all of a sudden your budget was 81 billion, and then you are slapped with a bill of 83 billion, sort of another 4 billion. So you've got a certain challenge. Where are you going to raise the other 3 billion from? You never thought about it, but now you have to face it. And that, what Honorable Maduna is saying, is like budget gaming. Yeah? You don't want to put it there because you don't want it to be visible. And that's what we become suspicious from where we sit. And that's for us the point. And therefore, all of this is associated with the impact on service delivery. Low maintenance budget. I heard there was an argument here whether it's the right amount or not the right amount, but your water losses going close to 50% because of infrastructural problems. Something has gone wrong somewhere. There were electricity losses because of infrastructural. Something is wrong somewhere there. So these issues that are being raised here are actually for us fundamental, because they're about service delivery. So that's what this whole issue is all about. So somewhere along the line, and Chairperson, I'm going to leave it to you to, somewhere along the line, the City of Johannesburg has to convince us that next year we're not going to have the same material irregularities repeated and not being resolved, and the situation continues as it is going on now. So we need a way that we're going to respond to show us that in fact that's what's not going to happen. Otherwise, we all now have no explanation for why we've sat here, we've spoken about all of these things, but there's no change. Something has to happen somewhere. So that for us is one major issue. The other one that we raised, and I think the chairperson raised it a bit earlier, this is in relation to UIFW, which were regularized or written off. This is 2022, 23, 24, 25. We want the basis for the write-off. How did you actually deal with them? And secondly, we also want to know what happened to the people who caused it. What is the consequence management? So we need that report. That report must also show us that you have tabled it in the council, and what did the council say? And that is I had the MPAC chairperson saying they got no problems, 100% attendance, all the meetings are honored, everything. Now they've written off a huge amount, but we want to know how. Why did you actually write it off? Did you write it off and got someone to be investigated, to be disciplined, and so on? Give us that list. So that, for me, would be what would be important. There's another issue that came in rather late, but I think we need the entities under the City of Johannesburg at some point to actually come and visit us. And let's hear a bit more, because they need to appear in the portfolio committee. Of course, we have the mandate and the right to call them, okay? I think it's important, but what's of concern right now is the way the questions are being answered. It creates an impression that the oversight by the municipality is poor or very limited over them. Now, if you ask the question, it looks to us that there's quite a lot of irregularities and corruption that could be taking place there, and there's not much of a view of what is happening here from the city. I think you're a bit distant. And how do we know you're a bit of a distance? The question was asked, what was the basis for raising salaries? Now, the hands-off approach is what's really making us realize that there's a challenge here. There may well be transgressions. I heard the CFO talking about, at some point, we had to discuss the issue of debts. At some point, now, you only discuss the issue of debts, but part of the cause of the debt is a huge salary. We didn't check what had caused the salaries to be increased. So from our point of view, we need that space. So when we say you must try and be factual, it's because we also don't want to get the municipal leadership to sound defensive on issues, okay? And something might pass as a very mild statement. So I'll give you an example. And the rest of the issues are going to be based on this particular issue. The question gets asked. The CFO says, well, there is some work that the city will be implementing on behalf of the provincial government. And the chairperson quickly says, okay, which are those? Give us a list. And then the CFO says, no, we're still going to sign an agreement. And then we can only tell you after we've signed the agreement on that. So now it begins to put us in a spot now, because that is not the information we have. The information we have is different. And I'm going to ask you, Mayor, and just for ease of, so that we don't spend a lot of time, I'll need this information, but I'll ask you and you'll tell me whether you're aware of it or you're not. And if you say you're not aware, don't worry, because you're going to have to give us more of this information. So the first one is an example. The Gauteng province creates what is called Gauteng energy crisis, okay? And so there's something that needs to be done in building the capacity to generate more energy in Gauteng, and they've got funds, but they don't have the capacity. So they ask someone else to do the work, or somebody offers to do the work for them. And who is that? City of Johannesburg. In this case, and I'll give you a number of them. The first one, not all of them, just a few. The first one, somebody raised it here, John Ware Substation and Turbine refurbishment. Okay. And the issue here was that this was supposed to be built from 9 megawatts to 50 megawatts. Okay. And from this point, funds were supposed to be put up. And in the process, the allegation is that the city power went out on public to say, in fact, they have achieved the 50 megawatts. But the allegations outside are saying, no, in fact, we're still at 9 megawatts, but the money has been spent. I don't know if you've heard of that. You haven't heard. I won't even ask you for the question because this is what we're going to need from you. We would like you to get us that report. Okay. John Ware, Substation and Turbine. Then we believe there's a contractor called Mustard Seed Technologies. If there was another one involved, please give us that. We'll write it down for you, but we've got a purchase order number. I'll give you the order number. I won't waste it to waste time here. If there were other or purchase order numbers, you'll give that to us. We would like to know what the procurement process was, how many contractors responded, and then we would like you to confirm the services rendered and items procured under this contract. But we're also interested in who were the officials who drew up the project. We're also interested in who drew up that order, who approved it, who authorized it, and who did the preparation for payment, and whether they did, who actually ultimately authorized the payment. There's an issue around it, which now says the city of Johannesburg, sorry, the city power actually went to go and refurbish this thing on behalf of supporting the provincial government. The provincial government paid money, but in fact the work was not done. So that's the nature of the allegation. That's why we're interested, what are those projects? So we hope that at some point we're going to begin giving a list of all those projects. We've got some, as I said, we won't deal with all of them. Then there was another aspect that the city power was actually supposed to put up electricity meters. And the money was put up for that. But then ultimately the allegation was that in fact the money was paid but the meters was not installed. And in that process, we again would like to get more information, which company got the contract, and provide the audit. In fact, in this case, the allegation is that this query arose and there was an audit done. But the audit was not done by City Power. It was done by an external company. Now, the allegations here are that that company has got conflict of interest with either one or other of the senior managers. So we would like to know, were you aware of that, and is the site? Then you can follow up the issue from there. Okay, so I'm just indicating to you that a simple question was what work has been done, but we thought in fact there was work that has been done, because from us this is what sounds like that's what it is, but it's got issues. Okay, now then the other question, there are a number of companies that would be interested in, for example. So there's one company with an order number which we'll give to you with dates of the order numbers. And the company says it's Ziva Civils. What was the appointment for? What did it do? And so on. You'll have to get a report as well on that. Then there are other issues, again, that relates to a list of companies. I can give you these companies, for example, that we would like you to share what work they did, MMK, Shifularo, Masingi Engineering, and so on. We'll give you, because if they did work, then of course there's nothing hidden about it. We're not making allegations. We want to see what happened. Then the AG had raised a query around a process where 8 companies were appointed. Now, these companies were supposed to go and do a turnkey project. So the figure was issued, the figure which was, this thing was priced at about 350 million. But within 4 months, the figure went up to 450 million rand. Same companies were appointed. I've got a whole list of them. And then allegation was that actually, even though they were given the contract for a turnkey project, City of Johannesburg, City Power had actually issued them building material, the material that was needed for those components and so on and so on. So was this true? Is it not true? And so on. But the allegation goes further to actually allocate each one of those companies to be aligned to one of the senior managers, 8 of them. And then there's an allegation that goes back now to say that some cash was given back to these particular officials, which is why when you get a question raised by the members about Mati, what was the name of?
Let's call him money bags. Is it Mr. Matib?
Yes.
Mr. Matib,
Yeah. The argument was, was there anything that could have been corruption in the entity that could have actually been an explanation or not? And it's not a wild guess. It's not a theoretical question. It's a question based on things that have been surfacing. So when we now have to ask you all these questions, and as we've just indicated to me, some of these things you don't know. You may not have been a mayor at the time. Maybe you were, because I haven't been able to check. But when you pick up those issues, then when we sit here and we say, but who would have been looking at all of these things? We would expect that the council would have been the one that's been looking at them. Now, because we see that there's this gap, now we say, no, we need to bring them here. So let's sit them here and talk to them and hear about all of this. So for us, we'll send you this in more details, and then you go and get us all the information about it. Maybe that by then it won't be the only one. Maybe there'll be more that on which we'll have to be raising these issues. So back to the question where we started. For us, it's about accountability. For us, it's about oversight. For us, it's about picking up issues where we think there are governance lapses, there are service delivery challenges. Then we'll bring them here, because at the end of it, people who voted us in expect that we should be able to pick up issues from them and go and check whether the system is delivering as expected, because the mandate for the system is to deliver services. This is a government system, whether it's national, provincial, or local. It has to be. That's really where the focus is. So for me, Chairperson, I would say we'll send this over, and then we could then have space to get more information. You've picked up a number of issues that were raised by the various members here. It would be good for us to get those issues on the table and more explanation. But I think just as a matter of understanding the approach, what we need is just direct factual information, and therefore can see how we deal with the issues from there. At the end of the day, we all have the responsibility to the same population that they must get adequate service delivery. Chairperson, thank you very much. I would like to end it there.
No, thanks very much, Chairperson. Can I also make an information request of my own? So that issue of Mr. Matib, so we need a separate submission for him. We will formulate it properly, but we will expect a submission from the board chair, in terms of what steps they took to understand what is going on over there, etc., etc. But that will be in the letter. Secondly, we will need a sworn statement from Mr. Matibe himself. about that money. And there is a reason why it needs to be a sworn statement, because it is unlawful to lie to Parliament. We will also ask for certain supporting documentation about the source of that money in terms of the Powers and Privileges Act, but we will compose that in a separate letter dealing with that issue specifically, because it actually is quite serious. It's just unheard of for somebody to be found with so much cash, get charged, and nobody's interested in how that came about. So, but we will compose that in a letter that you need to get in short order. Can I just, so there were some issues raised by the AG, and I would really hate to say come back to deal with them, because I think you can dispense with them quickly. So if you can indulge me for a few minutes. Remember when I spoke about the notes to financial statements, CFO? Yeah, can we please go to note 10? Note 10 is about your rates and stuff, your revenue stuff. I just have a couple of questions with regards to that. And that is, I noticed that for consumer debtors, so you're looking at, for consumer debtors who are over 365 days, the total is, I think that's 42.5 billion. Yeah, that's 42.5 billion. So just keep that in mind, because I am adding up. I've seen the allowance for impairment, etc. But if you go on, I want to get to your commercial. Okay, sorry. Let's go to note 10 on page, because note 10 goes on forever. Page 60 specifically. I don't know if you've got the notes to hand. We're on page 60 together. Can you see that? Okay. It says national and provincial government past due and impaired over 365 days. I think that amount is 421 million. Would that be it? Would that be correct? Which are you saying that government departments don't pay to such an extent that those amounts have to be impaired? Am I understanding it correctly?
So, Chair, in terms of the provision for doubtful debts, it looks at days. Our argument would be to exactly your question, to say, look, these are national and provincial government; they should pay us. But remember, when you look at an accounting policy, you look at when the aging of that debt. I can say now that balance for consumer debtors relating to national and province has actually come down to 1.1 billion. So they are paying through the concerted efforts that we have with provincial treasury and national treasury. But yeah, in terms of the provision, it follows just the accounting policy. So we can't just take it out.
I'm not fighting with the accounting policy. I'm fighting a key issue, which is government entities for more than a year do not pay you guys, to the extent that the debt has to be impaired. That's the long and the short of it, right? Okay, can we get a list of those entities for that year?
We can
okay.
provide.
We will then get in touch with the authorities concerned. That was all. I'm not fighting with the accounting policy itself. And then on page 58, so I'm sorry I'm going up. Same issue. Commercial, industrial, commercial. Right. So there are those. So there's 365 days, which is not past due and impaired. That's about 15 billion, I suppose. And then impaired is 14 billion in essence. So what I need to understand is what kind of businesses are these?
So this would be large power and small power. So it would be large companies and medium-sized companies as well. So anything in the commercial space, Chair. Again, we do have a list of those, including the efforts.
Okay, I'm not at the list yet. I'm just trying to understand. So what steps do you take? I mean, why does it get to that extent where for over a year, especially if it's a large company, what's the issue? Why are they not paying?
Some of them, it could be that they've lost the query or we are in court. a court order against us, which is part of the process that we are looking at in terms of the war room, just getting those court orders out of the way and doing the debatements so we can get paid. Secondly is where we actually have cut them off, but the payment is still not coming through, which is then going through a legal process. And thirdly, some of them could relate to acknowledgement of debts that we have. But from a business point of view, Chair, those are in the main why we are seeing delayed payments from business. And as part of trying to deal with it, we are engaging certain businesses, especially with high balances, in terms of paying the past, or in case of some of this debt going back for years, because some of them did have financial difficulties during COVID, seeing how we can help them at least come up to date and get their current balances in order. So yeah, those are some of the various aspects that we have under the commercial.
Okay, do you know what percentage of that, roughly speaking, is due to billing being disputed and therefore being the subject of litigation?
We have those stats, we can get them, yes.
But do you have an estimate right now?
And I don't want to lie to Parliament, but we do have those estimates, Chair.
Okay, so my difficulty is because I was going to go to the question of how's your billing accuracy issue now? Because if that is the issue, so between industrial, commercial, and government, for a cash-strapped city like the city of Johannesburg, there's serious money that could actually come to the city, and it doesn't. So can you just send us a breakdown from 121 to 365? In fact, just send us a 365 days and above for industrial, commercial, both the past due and impaired, and the category above, which I suppose is not past due and impaired. Can you do that? Just by, we don't want the names, I just want the aggregates for now, which is whose disputes, how many are disputing their bills, etc., etc. Let me ask, so what accounting treatment then do you give to entities that are litigating you when they're over 365 days? Do you also impair them, or do you keep them on the books? I'm just trying to understand how to find my way around.
So once the invoice is issued, Chair, it's in the books.
Just tell me about your impairment policy, actually. I think that's simpler. When do you impair?
So based on the different services, Chair, we do, it's part of the upper notes. It depends on the service. I just want to get to that part of the notes.
Yeah, but you should know your impairment policy, shouldn't you?
Yeah, no, remember it's different services, Chair.
Oh, I see.
Electricity and
I see.
water
Okay.
would do their own, and we just consolidate.
Oh, I get you.
Yeah, so I was just trying to get to the group policy, but it's based on the amount of days that would be outstanding, which is what the accounting standards want, and from that we would provide. But remember, a provision doesn't mean we'll never collect. So as we collect, we do the reversals in the books.
Can we go to note 34? I just need you to just explain something to me. Note 34 on page 113, public transport network grant. Can you see that? Page 113. Note 34 at the top there. So there's balance unspent at the beginning of the year, 238, current year receipts for 35, and then the third line says paid back 239 million, essentially. What does that mean? Paid back to Treasury? Would that be
for PTNG? Yes, it would be paid back to the Department of transport at national.
Back to the part of why would that happen? Can you just explain to me?
It would have been a non-expenditure, especially on PTNG in the past. That was in 24-25. Essentially, it was around we discussed the part about Rea Vaya and engaging with the taxi industry on the certain routes.
It was that dispute. So you couldn't progress the thing because the Oaks were going to shoot you. Okay.
Yeah, but that process has been now resolved, Chair.
Okay, all right. Thanks. I think I'm done on that side. So let me just go to the issues the Auditor General raised with us. I think I would have asked that you just take note of the presentation itself and the discussion. So there is infrastructure project insights that they gave us. So they took a sample of some of the projects. And I might be looking at you, but I think your colleague next to you will be more appropriate, your Chief Operating Officer. But together you might be able to assist me. So for the electricity, the project Hospital Hills, so some of the issues the Auditor General raises here: no detailed design documents were issued to the contractor. Available drawings are outdated, brackets 2021. Inadequate project management and administration led to inaccurate as-built drawings that did not reflect modifications made at Lenasia Sub. I suspect you might know about this, or not? I just want to get an understanding of why there would be no detailed design documents. Does anybody know about that? Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, CEO. I was...
Thanks, Chair. We did provide the information about the Hopefield.
No. Just tell the story. There's a specific question. Why were there no detailed design? Why were the detailed design documents not issued to the contractor? And the only available drawings are outdated. That's a specific question. Is the why?
Chairperson, the designs are there.
Okay. Is the Auditor General wrong? Well, there are two things. One, Auditor General says no detailed design documents were issued to the contractor. That's the Auditor General's observation.
We'll double check, but the designs are there. Thanks.
You are answering a question I did not ask. I am saying to you, they were not issued to the contractor. I didn't say they're not there. You're telling me they're there. I'm asking why were they not given to the contractor?
I don't have the exact information as to why. I will be lying, Chair, but I can double check with the teams.
Okay. Can we then be just provided with reasons why that were the case, one? And secondly, if anyone was held responsible for that, I'm just not sure why that wouldn't be given to a contractor at all. And then there's human settlements, the Trizik Extension 4. Project monitoring was weak and non-compliant with limited meetings, poor documentation, and a lack of stakeholder engagement. Does anybody know about this project? And there were other problems. Key controls such as valid insurance, guarantees, and contract reviews were missing. Financial mismanagement occurred when the city improperly covered contractor liabilities and lacked quality assurance evidence, raising compliance and workmanship concerns. Does anybody know about that story there?
No, thanks, Chair. These are part of the human settlement contracts that we've actually sent in for investigations, because at the request of the info, we also raised similar questions in terms of the submissions and why these were not done within the entity. So we had requested that these go for investigation, and I suppose we'd have to provide the committee with the outcome of that investigation, Chair.
Okay, can you just give me an insight? So when was the investigation, when was the recommendation made? Okay, firstly, when did you become aware of this? Because I understand that the reason this report was delayed to us was because of disputes over other matters, but this was not one of the matters in dispute, right? Right. So when did you become aware of the issues that are raised here by the AG?
No, Chair, in terms of the issues raised with the AG when the audit was actually ongoing, and we then learned that the information requested by the AG was not provided. And at the time, I think we had a leadership vacuum in terms of the HOD acting, and the colleagues that were acting at the time could not provide the detailed response. That's when we then decided that we should rather just get these matters investigated in order to not delay the submission to the AG, because those were a bit of a challenge.
Okay, okay, but I'm still not covered. So when did you become aware of these issues? That's my question. When did you become aware of these issues?
So these issues became aware when the audit was actually undertaken, as per when the AG was doing the submissions, especially when there was request for information in particular to human settlement. You recall the the 14 million dispute project in terms of sundry debtors and the work that we did for the Gauteng province human settlement. And that's when these came up, and we had asked when
was that? Was it last year? It would have been last year, because you were already in dispute this year.
Late last year, Chair, early in the year. Yeah.
So when was a request for investigation made?
Chair, we requested that investigation, I think in Jan, because by the time we raised the dispute, we were hoping the information will surface, but that obviously did not happen, and we just decided that around Jan we should actually look at all of these matters, particularly human settlement. If I recall, CM, there is a memo that you directed to me to look at a number of issues at human settlement, not just only contracts, but also the capacity issues, the low-faring contracts. So it's around Jan, Chair.
Sure.
And at that time, I looked into almost all of those big projects.
It's June now. Has the investigation started?
Yeah, it has started, Chair. As I said, I guess the challenge as well was been the changes in the leadership, because human settlement is one of those difficult portfolios that between myself and the accounting officers, because we obviously have a court challenge on the HOD, but the challenge goes even deeper than we have not had a finance director in that unit for a number of years, and that's where in fact, the controls, the weaknesses have been in there. So we have started.
Okay, your answer isn't giving me confidence. So at which stage is the investigation then? Because you had said your initial answer had been you've asked for an investigation. Then I pressed further, then you said it has started. But you're telling me about all of these challenges that are there. Who is investigating?
Chair, we've asked the internal audit to look at the issue. Secondly, in my office, we've also appointed the engineering office of excellence to look into that. The director in my office is actually finalizing the report to look at, because we think there are SCM issues, but there are also technical issues in terms of project management through SPMO and the engineering excellence office that's in my office, Chair.
Okay, so when do you expect to get a report on this?
Chair, just I think 2 days ago I was talking to my director to conclude the submission to the accounting officer. So say about a week and a half, we should be concluding and submitting to the accounting officer.
Right. Thanks. We'll send you a letter just so that you can then send us the information. The last issue is under IT. So there's a particular aspect that just worries me. I think Honorable Neil May dealt with the weak IT project governance and so on. But there is a section where the AG says ineffective IT contract and SLA management evidenced by unverified deliverables, unsupported payments, in some instances overlapping contracts, excessive service provider reliance without adequate performance monitoring. And those seem to be right across. And then there's service delivery impacts, SLA breaches across residence queries, city systems not strategically placed to fully support its service delivery and performance reporting. So, but what I need to understand is that has anybody got a handle on why the deliverables are unverifiable, payments get made nonetheless, and in some instances you're overlapping contracts. I'm not sure why that would be the case. And then there's excessive service provider reliance, which just seems to suggest that it's possible that people get contracts because they want one, even if there's somebody else already doing the work, and nobody checks whether they do it or not. That's what that picture says there. So I just need, since you've had various engagements with the AG about this, I want to know what steps have been taken to establish whether anybody should be held accountable in terms of discipline, in terms of recovering any monies, in terms of financial loss to the city, and what corrective actions have been taken systemically to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
So, Chair, in terms of IT and the systems thereof, before any payment would have been made, the head of IT would have signed off on those invoices. I do know, because the IT audit takes place with just the IT department, and it's headed by its own senior manager in terms of the IT. We can get a report in terms of that aspect, because he does. The GICT department has robust discussions with the AG. I just don't want to venture into that space because there's a dedicated group chief technology officer in the city.
Okay, no, thank you. So what we'll do is we'll ask the Auditor General, I think Mr. Tikubu's here, we'll ask the Auditor General to share with us the sample of contracts that they looked at. We will then ask to see here in Parliament a few people. So your SCM people with the procurement matters that we're talking about, we'll want to see the SCM people in particular, but that will also be in the letter, in particular the issue of contract and project management, number one. Number two, to understand the system that you have in place or not to adequately phase out contracts when that's required, introduce a new tender advertisement and so on, so that there's a seamless handover, because that's a recurring problem right through the municipals, in fact through government as a whole, which is why you get the irregular expenditure with deviations and contract extensions and so on, because the tender process was started too late, took too long, etc. So that will be a different conversation. So it's late, I know. So we will deal with the other outstanding issues when we see each other again. All right, Honorable Taibosh.
I forgot something very important. I just wanted to find out. The City of Joburg was doing a write-off or something like that for is it, I don't know, is it for pensioners? I'm specifically asking for pensioners. I got a group of old people that owes the city, and they just asked me to ask if there's a write-off for pensioners or not. I mean, there's like 50,000, 70,000 and stuff like that.
Honourable Member, the process of debt rehabilitation. Yeah,
the debt rehabilitation.
Yes.
So it's not a write-off.
No, part of the write-off is.
But they would qualify. They would qualify with 2,000 rand a month that they get if they. They'll probably pay half of that.
Definitely, they must apply.
Okay.
It's there. It's on our website as well.
Okay.
And I can give you further details just to help you. As
okay.
Well.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Sorry.
Honourable Portfiter, you are our last. Oh, okay. Honourable Neil May will be the last.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add to your request for documentation, if you'll allow me. I think one thing that's of great concern in the report is the sort of normalization of the deviations. When I entered council in 2016, regulations 36 it's an exception. It's not a standard practice, but it's become more like, why is the city repeatedly dependent on sole suppliers, moving into the space of how easily can an official prepare a regulation 36. It's very concerning. But there are 2 reports that are available, and I think those are the copies that you're looking for, because I've seen them previously a couple of years ago. The one is the list of supply chain management contracts, and when officials were notified of when those contracts were up for review. That happens 12 months before the contract should be reviewed. And I think the issue is with regards to the 6-month control that's been inserted in the City of Joburg's report, because they said they've inserted a 6-month control to alert officials. The original requirement is it starts 12 months before, so the current control to address the issues is insufficient. Then matched with that is obviously the report that has the Regulation 36 deviations, which is actually one in the same report, but you can get it as separate ones. And then the last one, Chair, is a list of these settlements in terms of the legal issues with regards to City of Joburg. Because what happens is where this 50-50 issue happens and the probability that you were talking about earlier, it results in settled cases, which is why a lot of your bylaw enforcement is not happening, because instead of fighting on the laws that you're trying to implement, you are then losing cases based on settlements where you could have actually won those cases. So it's just those 3, Chair. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much, Honourable Potgieter. Honourable Neil May.
Yes, no, thank you, Chairperson, and it's very short. One of the questions that wasn't answered was when is the position for the head of public safety going to be filled? My colleague had asked that one. We discussed all the other positions, especially the one in the city manager's office, but being that is one of the most important positions in your city, and considering that it's, safety. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Honourable Mtolo.
Yeah, Chair, before you close, I think it is important to raise this matter. We once actually, Chair, visited Johannesburg as this joint committee. I think actually they've now realized the importance of being comfortable when we attend such meetings. I'm raising this issue, Chair, because we visit Johannesburg, we stayed we were using plastic seats. And then we're given a very uncomfortable, very bad accommodation. So when we were there, Mr. Mayor, so we felt so bad as this committee, actually, when we're at your city. So you said, we invited you, you said comfortable, unlike when we visited your city. So I think in the future, it's not a joke, Municipal Manager, I'm raising this issue very seriously. Because we have long meetings, we have witnessed that, we have realized. I don't know, I think Sherin, you know the name of the place where we are accommodated when you have this meeting. I'm raising this issue, Chair, because we had a meeting until 2 a.m. in those shares, in that place where we had a meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Mtolo. I'm just glad you're not suggesting we carry on until 2 a.m. But Honourable Mayor, I would ask that you respond to Honourable Mtolo's observation. But I was, can you please? No, sure. Let me just complete, Chair. So can we do this? Let's answer Honourable Neil May's question, the specific question about that role that's going to be filled. There are information requests. The Honourable Chairperson wants to say something. I was going to give you, Honourable Mayor, an opportunity to make closing remarks, and then, so please just hang down in there. You will get to make closing remarks. Let's hear from the Chair.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. The Honorable Mtolo is correct. The place was called Fendale, and it was a joint committee sitting. It was indeed a very uncomfortable venue. The only reason why I'm coming in is to say that Mayor can look at better venues, but it was not organized through the City of Johannesburg. It was the Speaker. These MPs who were here, we should have reminded them because none of them actually attended our meeting at that time. And many of the members of Parliament of Gauteng did not even pitch. In fact, the only people who attended was the Premier, who came in and then assigned the MEC for Cocta to stay on. He stayed on till the end. But we didn't get much of interest from the parliamentarians of Gauteng. And that we say upfront because we had actually written to them, like all the other provinces, we would go to the invitation through the Speaker, and then would then invite different municipalities for interview or engagement. But the host is the Speaker. In this case, Mayor, when we visit you, please remember how comfortable we have been here. But actually, the right culprit is the Speaker and the members of the provincial legislature in Gauteng. In other provinces, we have actually had a lot more reception than what we got in Gauteng.
Honorable,
You were there, yes,
yeah,
you were
Honorable
there. Oh,
Atkinson,
you were there,
yeah,
sorry,
he
you were
WhatsApped me at 11:30. Okay, can we answer Honorable Neil May's question, and then Honorable Mayor, you can make your final remarks, and then I will officially close.
Thank you, Ken. The position of HOD Public Safety is going to just concluded the recruitment process and is going to cancel, I think, the June council meeting for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Kabazela. From where? And thank you very much, Honorable Zibi. I must say that I would want to first acknowledge that the President of the Republic did give us particular responsibilities as local government, especially when he addressed a local government meeting on the 30th of April. And I want to remind ourselves of what he said. He said we must build a culture of accountability and responsible resource use to secure our future. And these were the statements made by the President the very same day he were to declare the date of the elections of the 4th of November, a date that is part of a democratic process and allows us to get feedback from the people of South Africa. Let me, Honorable Chair, first and foremost acknowledge that sitting here for almost 11 hours has made me realize that going to the principal's office is not a bad thing. And of course, the comments made by the co-chair of Portfolio Committee on COCTA also re-emphasize this point that coming here, it's an important part of our democratic process. That as institutions of local government, we should also be held accountable on how we manage and use the resources of the public. And according to your action, it's of course practice that should be encouraged and not to be feared to come and appear in this committee. And I'm not advocating for naughtiness so that we can constantly be called to the principal's office. We have learned a lot today, and we must thank both the chairs for this experience. At a personal level, as the executive mayor, I have learned a lot in this engagement today, and this experience gives us an opportunity to reflect. Where do we come from? Where are we, and where are we going? And importantly, it is for this reason that I must remember the words once again of the President, who echoes the issues around responsibility and responsible use of resources. Perhaps let me also reflect on the importance of the white paper in local government, which I think came into being in 1998, which is our benchmark to compare what we envisaged in 1998 and the realities we are faced in 2026. These realities are reflected in the National Development Plan and in our own development plans and municipal strategic documents. Today, local government is confronted, of course, with complex challenges, and amongst others, issues around financial management, governance, and administrative challenges. And I think this meeting demonstrates the extent at which these governance challenges are facing municipalities and financial management. And solving for these challenges requires, of course, leadership and strong partnerships, and I would like to emphasize issues around partnership, because I believe that South Africa belongs to all, and of course Johannesburg itself belongs to its residents, and therefore business, stakeholders and residents, and of course the other spheres of government should form part of the partnership to build the city. We all have a right to the city, and it is for this reason that we must constantly circle back to the NDP and remind ourselves of the following words that are articulated in the NDP, and I would like to quote them. Open quote, our homes, neighborhoods, villages, towns, and cities are safe and filled with laughter. Through our institutions, we order our lives. These faces of our children tell of the future we have crafted, close quote. I thought it's important that from time to time we reflect on the NDP. We have to achieve what we have set ourselves in the NDP, in the Johannesburg Growth and Development Strategy 2040, and of course our IDP, which continues to guide us in managing aspirations of our people and communities. And of course, over the past 31 years, significant strides have been made in driving local government into the space of development where all can live, work, and play, and in common shared spaces. For all the progress we have made thus far, we should not stop. We should remain to commit ourselves on changing the lives of ordinary people. We should continue to remain committed to development that is inclusive, fair, and democratic in our communities. Let me also conclude, Co-Chair, that I think it is safe to say that we see a partner in SCOPA, we see a partner in the Portfolio Committee on COCTA. We also would like to invite you to take a walk in Small Street in the center of Johannesburg, right through to the Johannesburg Library, so that you can experience the changes that we have been able to implement as part of implementing some of our commitments we made as the city. We also take with us counsel from this committee on some of the key issues that would help us to actually turn around local government and improve political leadership oversight on the work that the city has been doing. With that being said, thank you and thank you and thank you, and would love to come back as soon as possible with our entities so that to give you an opportunity for you to give a proper scrutiny of the entities of the city of Johannesburg. Ke a leboga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Executive. You've taken the words out of my mouth with your last. So we will just work with the Auditor General to just say which ones are important. We can't do all of them, obviously, but the most important, we definitely will do that. And we'll reorder our calendar, both committees, to make sure that we can do that. I just want to say in closing quickly, thank you very much for making the time to come here and engaging with us for so long. The questions of the members are not coming from a place that says your job is easy. I need you to know that. I also know that the members want the same outcome as you all do, and the residents of Johannesburg. So the robustness of our debate is like a practice match to make sure that when we get to the game, we all are as sharp as possible. And if you can play a role in making sure that you sharpen yourself and so on, we're always available to do that. But thank you very much. And also for the detail in the information that you've shared with us. We really appreciate it. It was always timeous. You always cooperated. I really appreciate that. And I also want to say thank you to the colleagues who were answering questions from the back. None of it was a fight. I also have a neighbor here, so I have to be careful. Might run me over, and I'm joking.